Good Thursday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salchunas, and it's the Midday Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Another freaking beautiful day out in Philadelphia. Jersey, the suburbs. Beautiful, man. Had a great time yesterday just chasing young Coop around. Going to do more of that today. It's yard work day, Ray. I was already pumped up about it before the show. Yard work day, Ray. It's also a day we're going to talk about Jalen Hurts. So I have a question for you guys. There seems to be a narrative out there right now, and it's spun in a negative way, shockingly. And I'm confused by it. So the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, and they already had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. Jason Kelce leaves, but Cam Jurgens slides over to center. They lock up Landon Dickerson. Maaddi's still here. Lane Johnson's here. You'll figure out what the deal is at right guard. Is it Matt Hennessy? Is it Tyler Steen? Is it a draft pick that eventually is the replacement to Lane Johnson? That's what I think it might end up being. But we'll see. The offense was already very good before Saquon Barkley got there. And there were a lot of people upset with the Barkley signing at first because they were worried that the defense would not be attended to, which it has been already with the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson signing, Bryce Huff. And there's still more to come. But the Eagles add to the offense by getting Saquon Barkley. Not a running back on the final year of their rookie deal. Not a guy that's going to get $2 million, right? You know, the Matt Breidas of the world. We went through the running back tiers a couple of weeks ago, and there were, tiers 1 through 7. And Barkley was in tier 1, the only running back in tier 1. Derrick Henry was in tier 2, as was Josh Jacobs. And it went from tier 1 all the way to tier 7. We thought it would be a 6th or 7th tier running back that the Eagles were to acquire in the new league year. And then, boom, right? It's Saquon Barkley, and that changes everything. But there's a narrative out there from some of you that the Eagles are doing whatever they can to help Jalen Hurts. Like, oh, my God. They're doing whatever they can to help him. As if that's a bad thing. And I need to ask the question, why is that a bad thing? So I'm starting to think of the quarterbacks around the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce, and that's pretty much it, right? Isaiah Pacheco is a very talented running back. They got him in the 7th round. But he's got Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, and that's it, and a good offensive line in front of him. He's Patrick Mahomes. We need to stop comparing Jalen Hurts to Patrick Mahomes just because they're both franchise quarterbacks and Hurts makes a lot of money and Hurts was able to basically outduel him in the Super Bowl, but unfortunately the Eagles lost that game and the Chiefs won it. But Patrick Mahomes is in a class of his own. Tom Brady was in a class of his own. Didn't always need the top talent around him, and he was still going to be a very good quarterback, arguably the greatest of all time. But other than that, you look around the NFL, every quarterback that is of that, top tier list has incredible weapons around them. Incredible weapons. Maybe Lamar Jackson, you could make the case, not as much as some other teams. I think Zay Flowers is going to be a nice little wide receiver in the league. He does have one of the greater tight ends in the league in Mark Andrews. But after that, think about it. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. Now, I know that's changing, but before this offseason, he had 2 incredible wide receivers and a great running back. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. I know Mike Williams hurt a lot, and I know he's no longer with the Chargers. And Austin Eckler before, with them. Like the top wide receivers, the guys that you make the case, this guy could be a top 5 quarterback. This guy could be a top 10 quarterback. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. Name whatever tight end you want. They always find a good one in Dallas, right? It's incredible. He had Zeke, then he moves on to Tony Pollard. The top quarterbacks around the NFL also have great weapons around them. The days of the quarterback making the players around them better, few and far between. You had Brady, you had Mahomes. Every quarterback had a go-to guy. And for the most part, smart teams had good offensive lines in front of them. Cincinnati's really the only one that's not there yet. But most teams with quarterbacks that they invested heavily in have a great weapon or two or three and a great offensive line. So the Eagles had two or three great weapons. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and the offensive line in front of them. And then they add to it by getting Saquon Barkley, which ends up making Jalen Hurts' life easier. And I feel like there's a narrative out there that's a bad thing. Like, oh, they paid him all this money. They should allocate whatever resources they have left toward the defense because Hurts should be able to play up to a certain standard. Because the standard is the standard, Ray. Got to keep the main thing the main thing. So Hurts doesn't need as many weapons because he's Jalen Hurts. He's very, 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 very good. He's a good quarterback. He's just not Patrick Mahomes. Nor will he ever be. He might need extra weapons around him to be a good quarterback. But the thing is, he's the one making the throws. Like, I go back to Chris Sims making the comments that he made about how any quarterback could thrive in this system. Well, one, we found out that was incorrect when Gardner Minshew lost the 2 games that he had to start 2 years ago. But B, why is that a bad thing? Why do we take away from a quarterback when they have ridiculous weapons? Tua Tagovailoa was seen as a guy that had a resurgence last year. You don't think he benefited from having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and running backs, Devin Achane whenever he was healthy, and tight ends? Like, you don't think Tua Tagovailoa benefited from that? I think every quarterback in the NFL benefits from the weapons they have around them. I think the days of the quarterback making the players around them better are not gone because Mahomes is doing it, but Mahomes is on a level of itself. I remember doing shows complaining about the Eagles organization not giving Carson Wentz weapons. I remember as a child complaining that the Eagles didn't give Donovan McNabb weapons, right? Oh, my God. Look at the numbers he's putting up, and that's with Pinkston and Thrash. And, yeah, he had B. West, and he always had a good tight end, whether it was Chad Lewis or, a cup of coffee with L.J. Smith. Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz, I get it. But Alshon, who was a good wide receiver for a couple years here in Philadelphia, Alshon and then who? Torrey Smith, who I love Torrey Smith, friend of the show, right? But it's not like Torrey Smith was the same Torrey Smith than what he was with Baltimore when he was first coming into the league, Baltimore and San Francisco. He was a little older at that point. So we complained when quarterbacks didn't have more weapons around them, and now it seems to be a narrative out there that, man, the Eagles are worried about Jalen Hurts, so that's why they're giving him Saquon Barkley. Well, if they are worried about Jalen Hurts and how he might need some extra help around him, why is that a bad thing? I would love to hear from you guys. 610-632-0975. I can't believe I'm asking this question. It sounds stupid to ask it, but there are people that are saying it. Is it necessarily a bad thing for the Eagles to allocate more resources to get more weapons around Jalen Hurts to make the freaking quarterback's life easier? I think that's a good thing. If you are... They're giving this guy $250 million, right? Based off of his talent, based off of what he was able to do 2 years ago, based off of the quarterback-starved league that is the NFL. But you're also giving him $250 million to be the guy to run your offense, and your offense is filled with talent. And he did it well and has done it well. So why would you want that taken away from him? To me, it makes sense. Now, Ray Dunn is back in the saddle. That's why I've said Ray a couple of times. Tom Alvord had been with me the first 3 days of the week. Unfortunately, Temple Women's Hoops lost to Rice the other day. So Ray is back. Now, I can't wait to talk to Ray on the other side because Ray will be able to react for the first time to the news of Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'll ask Ray his thoughts on this weird narrative that providing talent around Jalen Hurts is a bad thing because it's, maybe hiding some of his inefficiencies? Isn't that a good thing? Is that what you want? You want your cleanup hitter to also have help around him in the order. You didn't sign Bryce Harper and then put 8 Brad Millers around him. No, you signed some Kyle Schwarber and Castellanos and Trey Turner to also make Bryce Harper's life better, also to make your team better. Sometimes we say things that I don't think we actually think when we say it. So I'll get Ray's thoughts on that. And also, I can't wait to ask Mr. I Don't Want a Fun Offseason what his thoughts are after the first 3 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, news, rumors, slop. And Ray wanted a quiet offseason where he was able to knit. Ridiculous. We'll see if he's enjoying himself now. We'll get to that next. 610-632-0975. We also have not much of an update, but a report on Joel Embiid. I'll tell you about next, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
All right, fine. 99.75. The Fanatic 10 o'clock hour brought to us by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all-style windows, plus make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. I'm going to get to the calls in a second. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. My question for you guys today is, why is it seem like it's a bad narrative? Or the narrative is that it's a bad thing that the Eagles are trying to help make Jalen Hurts' life easier. You know, the other day when they first announced, well, not the Eagles, but once it was first reported that the Eagles were going to land Saquon Barkley on Monday, I do the show Tuesday. And, you know, I'm on the air talking about how, oh, my God, this makes Jalen's life easier for many things, right? He is a legit 3-down running back behind him. A guy that can pass protect, a guy that can catch the ball to the backfield, a guy that you can hand the football off. Because defenses now have to respect the run game, it makes A.J. Brown's life easier, Devontae Smith's life easier, which in tail makes Jalen Hurts' life easier because he's now thrown to guys that are maybe in single coverage as opposed to double coverage downfield, which was the same play they ran all the time with A.J. Brown in that ridiculous offense that was led by Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. So I'm talking about how Jalen Hurts' life is going to be easier now. Going up against defenses, having protection. And, oh, by the way, maybe not having to do a tush push 18 times a game. That might help his legs out down the road a little bit. We saw how slow he was moving by the end of the season last year. And I got an email from a guy named Jim, who maybe just isn't a Jalen Hurts guy. And he emails me. He goes, oh, wow, really glad we're making our $250 million quarterback's life easier. Why? I don't understand why the narrative is that that's a bad thing. If anything, I go, all right, cool. Like, maybe they do see some issues in Hurts' game and they gave him a big contract. What do you want to do? Let's take away weapons to really see what we have in this $250 million quarterback? And if it doesn't work out, you have lots of dead cap hits coming up down the road. Like, if anything, you already made the investment to the quarterback. So to try to get the best out of that investment, why wouldn't you want to try to make his life easier? I don't get that narrative. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Andrew.
All right, before we go down, Ray's roads of reactions.
Yes. Did anything happen while I was gone?
Yeah, a lot, dude.
Not bad.
It's crazy. You missed Kelsey Day last week,
Yeah.
and then the first 3 days of this week.
So basically, if you hear that I'm not going to be here, mark your
Notifications.
calendars because something's going to
notifications are
happen.
So before we even go down the road of everything, why is it that the narrative is that it's almost a bad thing? And it's not everyone, but there's enough people where I'm like, wait, so you're complaining that they're trying to make the franchise quarterback's life easier? He's not Mahomes and he's not Brady.
Yeah, that's really, really, and I don't want to use the word dumb, but it's pretty dumb. Like, I don't understand why you would want his life to be more difficult or even want his life to stay the same, because you saw last season, and it did not look easy. Anything they did offensively did not look easy.
Yeah.
So you bring in a new offensive coordinator. You have to address the running back room. You address it by getting one of the best running backs out there. Oh, by the way, you still have wide receiver 1A, 1B out
Right.
there. And it's like, this is supposed to be a bad thing that they have Pro Bowlers at pretty much every position offensively? Like,
Right.
this is
And I
supposed to
get
be
it. Some
bad?
of it for people is they could have done better addressing the defense, which I understand that. But, it's like in the same breath, it's not just, oh, man, I would rather have had Patrick Queen than Saquon Barkley. It's, what, we have to make Jalen's life easier and not fix the defense?
You do. That's kind of the intention of this whole thing. You invest in a quarterback you think is talented enough to take you there, and then you do everything you can to put a team around him that can get you where you want to go. Part of the reason why his cap hit is so low, because this is what they saw, what they wanted to do. He looked at it, he looked himself, and obviously they manipulated it in a way that it works and whatever. Smart guys, spreadsheets beyond my, comprehension. But they made it work where you have enough money to go out and spend and make sure that this team is going to be good enough around him. He realized that, the team realized that, and now they went out and started to do that for him. it's not a bad thing. They're executing on the plan that they had.
And the other thing is, like, people I've heard sticking with this similar narrative is, was this a panic move by the Eagles because they're worried how Jalen played down the stretch last year?
What?
Panic
you guys
move
have lost your mind.
Panic move or not? Like, if you needed to, if the Eagles thought, man, we need to do something to help out our $250 million quarterback, then we're going to try to do that this offseason. Like, why is that a bad thing?
I know I've been off the radar here. People are actually thinking this is a panic?
Not panic, but the panic move. The term panic move is thrown out there all the time nowadays. But they think there are people out there that think, all right, let's try to make Jalen's life easier and not worry about everywhere else.
Making his life easier makes the team better.
Yes!
Like, listen, I'm still not the biggest throw money around at the running back position guy, despite, I really didn't expect the emotional payoff of watching Giants fans.
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah.
I saw our man Sean from Pine Hill is not handling things well.
Not handling it well. I can tell you that my family's not handling it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great. We might not talk for a while. There might be a little bit of dissension in the family.
Well, at least you're happy.
Yeah, they're not. And I didn't really think about the emotional payoff of that. But really, the whole offseason is supposed to make this easier for Jalen. Maybe you don't have to score 30-something points to win because you make defense better. Also, maybe you don't have to shoulder everything offensively the way you did last year, where the offense just gets better naturally through the talent and through changing things. Like, we sit here pretending like the Super Bowl season, when they went to the Super Bowl, not the one where they won, but when Jalen went to the Super Bowl, like, they were a tremendously talented offense already.
Extremely talented.
They had a good system. Everything worked. Like, he's a great talent, but it also helps to have talent around him. I'd prefer, like, I don't want, you know what? You know what'll really prove it to me? See if he has Arcega-Whiteside out there and see what he does.
Right.
I don't care.
But that's the thing. That's what's funny. We complained about Wentz not having weapons, McNabb not having weapons, and now Hurts has multiple weapons, and it's like that's a bad thing, which I'm very confused by. Now, I understand a lot of people's judgment might be clouded by the two quarterbacks that have basically owned the NFL over the last 20 years. Brady had 1 year of a very talented wide receiver in Randy Moss. Other than that, it was like, look, Julian Edelman, those guys were good players, but let's not act like Brady probably didn't make them a little bit better, right? And James White out of the backfield, right? Mahomes did have Tyreek Hill. He's now gone. He wins another Super Bowl with Travis Kelce and Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, we also can't pretend like that both Mahomes and Brady haven't benefited from having two of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, they've had two of the greatest tight ends of all time. Also, two of the greatest head coaches of all time, which I don't know what all you guys were saying about Nick Sirianni a month ago, but I know that it doesn't make me feel secure that he's still around here. So, hey, put some more talent, make it Sirianni-proof a little bit. I'll be all cool with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's get your reactions. We'll get to the phones in 610-632-0975. Ray's been out the last couple of days. First off, are you enjoying the offseason?
So, I want to start working on the wording here because you said quiet offseason. I remember the poll. I went and pulled it up. It was stick with what works. So they invested.
No, not that poll. I did a topic the week before, earlier in that week, when I said, even though it's because of the collapse, isn't part of you excited about the offseason approaching? And you said, no, I wish we could be doing Super Bowl or bust talk.
Yeah, and it feels like we're doing it again, aren't we?
Yeah, but it's much more fun. We're doing Super Bowl and bust because the additions of Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and still being linked to safeties and linebackers. That's fun, man. Radio guy, football guy is having a great offseason right now.
Free agency is always fun.
It wasn't last year. There was nothing last year. There's nothing to talk about last year. Last year freaking sucked.
About a guy we lost last year. We're literally talking about bringing back the guy.
Dude, the entire offseason last year ultimately was the most boring offseason I've been a part of my 10 years here at the station.
I'm sorry that they went to a Super Bowl and it bored you.
No, but even after they won the Super Bowl, at least we had the freaking Wentz-Foles debates. I had nothing last year. Nothing. It was as if I was back doing radio on Saturday mornings during COVID.
I disagree.
There was nothing to talk about.
I enjoyed it.
Nobody thanked us radio guys doing sports talk radio on a Saturday morning during COVID. 4-hour shows.
Thank you. I appreciate what you did.
A little love for the radio
Thank
guy
you.
here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. While I was delivering pizzas, it was nice to know that you were
and I was
bringing me through it.
What was the term? The
essential worker.
I was an essential worker.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for what you did.
I kept the news available for the people in case we ever got breaking news about COVID updates on Sports Talk Radio. But yeah, like last year sucked in terms of content. This year's freaking awesome, and it's not dying down anytime soon.
Listen, free agency's fun.
But you didn't want it. You didn't want this fun offseason. You wanted to knit and drink your chamomile tea and put your feet up on your recliner, if you're so lucky, and just, enjoy yourself.
I do have a nice recliner.
I say, yeah, that's what you wanted.
And I will put my feet up anyways because I wanted.
I'm doing shots, baby.
I wanted this to stay similar to the plan. And they've kept to the formula. They invested in edge rushing. They brought in offensive line depth. The one thing that they did that was incredibly different from what I expected and never could have imagined was Saquon. And
it was awesome.
It was
awesome.
It was pretty fun.
And
I'll
not just your family implications, just straight up, it was fun.
Yeah, the fact is cap hits what, like $4 million next year?
Yeah, dude,
yeah.
The build up, you have no idea what you missed on Monday. Because every 5 seconds, there's just up the reports, rumors, slop. It was an NBA slop day, pretty much. That's what it ended up being. And that was just the build up. And then 12 o'clock hit. Diana Rossini had the scheduled tweet because, there's tampering going on, right? She had the scheduled tweet, boom, 12 o'clock. Bang, Eagles and Texans are interested in Saquon Barkley. It was awesome. You cool with everything else? Huff and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson?
Well, obviously, Gardner-Johnson, I was thrilled with. And I do think, I don't know who it was that tweeted this out, that the $33 million seems like it's doing a lot of work in terms of, that's not what it's worth. If they weren't going to give him 3 for 24 and he had another injury-plagued season, I imagine that there's a lot of incentives built into that.
I imagine, yeah.
But I'm thrilled to have him back. One, we mentioned the swagger. They also, I think it was Schefter, had him as a nickel corner, which is an interesting phrasing to use.
Well, that's what it was when they first traded for him. And I don't know what it was announced as when the Lions signed him. I don't remember, honestly. But I did point that out, the nickel corner / safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which then got me excited that maybe there was still a Justin Simmons possibility, which seems like that's losing some steam. But that means they're still going to be in the market for safety, whether it's trade, draft, because right now it's still Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown, and Sidney Brown's not going to start the season healthy. And then the Huff thing, I loved it because it's very much like the Hassan Reddick original contract where you overpaid for what he has done so far, but you're hoping what he can become will make that a very team-friendly deal. I'm still hoping Hassan Reddick comes back, though. I can't do Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff and Brandon Graham.
Yeah, especially because Huff, you haven't seen him in this overexposed type of role, and I would prefer if he's still, like a lead man in a pretty significant rotation. I think they got away from rotating last year, which
way too much,
which hampered them. So I think you want him as a lead man in some sort of rotation, but you want to make sure that there's depth there behind him. I liked the signing. I did.
Yeah, it was a good sign.
It's not a knock on him at all. I think, and the price you got him for with the production he had a season ago is good.
No, you're waiting for the next move, and there has to be.
There has to be some backfilling there.
There's nobody there right now. You can't. Howie Roseman knows you can't go into the season with Huff and Nolan Smith, even though they're doing the. I was joking about this on Monday. It's a total PR tour that Howie's on right now, texting all these insiders. Hey, man, we really think highly of Nolan Smith.
Oh, yeah.
You want to throw that out there so that our fans see how highly we think of Nolan Smith. It's a total PR tour right now, but it's been a fun start to the offseason so far. I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself. Put down your knitting and have freaking fun. 610-632-0975. The question that I want you to answer on the phones. I can't believe I'm asking it. Are you cool with the Eagles doing whatever they can to help Jalen Hurts? 610-632-0975. It's weird that I'm saying it, but there is a narrative out there that it's almost a bad thing. Like, oh, my God, what, we had to give this guy everything? Yeah, and you know what? No excuses for Jalen next year. None. If he doesn't play up to the standard next year, I don't want to hear a single, this is another new OC excuse. Nope. Can't do anything about talent. Nothing. Oh, man, all they do is put Kenneth Gainwell out there. Yeah, because DeAndre Swift couldn't block. Saquon's 3 down back. I expect him to be out there a lot. There are no excuses for Jalen Hurts next year. Maybe that's also another play. Let's see what we got out of this guy. And if he doesn't play well, then we know we have to move on. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. Let's go to Brent in media. What up, Brent?
Yo, how are you?
What's up, dude?
So I don't think it's a bad thing at all that we're allocating offense or assets to the offense and, like, making the quarterback and the whole offense better. Because, like, if you think about it, like, any quarterback in the league would want, like, weapons. Like, the Chiefs would have, like, Kelsey and, like the Bengals have, like, Jamar Chase and, like, I know they traded Mixon, but, like, you know, like, every great quarterback in the league has weapons.
Has multiple weapons, whether it's star receiver, tight end back, 2 receivers, or whatever. Every quarterback in the NFL has weapons. And now all of a sudden it's a bad thing that the Eagles have maybe more weapons than most teams?
Right. It's not a bad thing at all because, like, now, like, you have so many weapons that you can't double everyone. Like, if you're doubling Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown's getting one-on-one opportunities. If you're doubling A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith getting one-on-one opportunities. Like, it's, like, not a bad thing at all.
No, absolutely not a bad thing at all. And now, look, the defense, I get it. There's people worried about the defense and how you could allocate resources there because the defense was so bad last season. They're not done yet. They're not done yet with free agency. They're not done yet with potentially making trades. And then they're going to draft. They have 1 billion picks right now.
Exactly. We still have, like, a first and 2 seconds to allocate to the defense. And we still signed Bryce Huff and CJ Gardner-Johnson. And those are not, like, slouch of players to upgrade the defense there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the defense is already starting to look better, and we just have to see. And thanks for the call, Brent. I appreciate it. We have to see what's next with the Reddick and Sweat situation, right? You know, Jeff McClain said the other day if they don't trade Josh Sweat, they might straight up just release him. And remember, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, that there was an out in this contract, and they would actually save, like, I think $2 million in the cap, and cap space means a lot of stuff for Jalen Hurts or for Howie Roseman. Cap space means a lot, especially if you're trying to redo a defense. And if Josh Sweat's not a part of the plans, then that might be the way it goes. I still want Hassan Reddick, though. Like, if I'm giving him a 2-year extension on top of what he already has, is that really going to kill him? Oh, well, he'll be 33 when it's all said and done. All right, well, he's only going to be 30 and 31 the next 2 years. And he's still extremely talented.
Who cares about the end of that contract? We're at the end of this contract. Do you think we're not going to be having this conversation at the end of the next contract? Like the idea that, oh, yeah, every year is fulfilled. They always end up here to the end of their contract. No, I want to maximize how good my team is right now.
Right, exactly.
It's not a better team without Hassan Reddick. That will be what we continue to come back to every time we have this conversation, Matt. And it's probably not a better team without Josh Sweat. But ultimately, if we're making a decision here, I think it's pretty obvious the one you decide with. Okay. You just made the comment if it can't just be these guys with the rotation.
Yeah,
your rotation is better with Josh Sweat. You know. If there's one of the two that I would move off of, I'm right there with you, and the one that I move off of.
Josh Sweat, yeah.
Yeah, I love wiping the brow as much as the next guy, but, you know, Reddick's the one that you have to protect in this situation.
We go from Brent in media to Graf in media. What up, Graf?
Reddick and Huff are better than Sweat and Huff, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, like, yeah, I'm with you guys.
Yeah, so make it work.
I don't understand that hard. Yeah, literally.
And Reddick and Huff is better than Huff and Nolan Smith.
Yeah, by a lot, right? Like, that's not even a question. That's, like, a lot. So my thing is the people who think it's, like, a bad thing to cater to your quarterback are probably the same ones that didn't listen to your COVID updates anyway and would tell you it was propaganda and that you should, like, take horse dewormer or something like that. Just that's a crazy, crazy thought because in the long run, right, Howie Roseman needs to secure his job. So if he can make his offense as dummy-proof as possible, well, if Nick Sirianni doesn't, let's say, make it to the NFC East or the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl this year, well, Howie has something to fall back on, doesn't he?
He goes, oh, look, it was the coach. You know, or look, it was the quarterback. You know, you would have given him that contract at the time too. It's not my fault that he didn't live up to it.
I'm just saying, like, he's got to look out for himself. So, you know, and the defensive situation, we can't say our defense didn't get better so far in free agency, because they have. But it is nice to know that, like, we got a wide receiver 3 out of all of this as well. So now maybe you don't have to make a stretch in the draft in order to fill that need. So now your draft can be more focused on defense. Or is that crazy?
Yeah, no, that's what they should do. They're gonna draft. They're gonna draft an offensive lineman probably early because they need to start figuring out the plans for Lane Johnson down the road. But after that, it's gonna be a lot of defensive players, as it should be.
Would you be surprised if it's like 2 offensive linemen and the rest are just defensive players? Like, would that surprise you even a little bit?
No, it wouldn't surprise me. They'll probably, you know them. They'll get a quarterback at some point. They'll probably get a tight end. They'll get a tight end at some point.
I can't believe we're still like a quarterback factory, dude.
Damn right, man. Look, we're already moving on from Tanner McKee. People want to trade for Justin Fields. Thanks for the call, Graf. I got to get your thoughts on that because I am so against it. So against it. But I know there's a lot of people that freaking want it. I just can't believe I have to remind you once more about what just happened here not that long ago. Oh, but Jalen's different. Do you know him? Have you spoken to him? Have you sat down and asked him if he'd be cool if they brought in Justin Fields, who a lot of people wanted here, when Jalen Hurts was already going to be the starting quarterback? People wanted to draft Justin Fields here. All right? I remember doing the shows. People wanted him. It's a terrible idea. So I'll ask Ray about that. Also, coming up next, we have a dope and a rat that are trying to hurt the Eagles. There could be fines and draft picks taken away if they find things to be true. I'll tell you the latest Eagles drama next and how it's one of your own. And I know there's something wrong with that school. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 10:50 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. Today's question, why is it a bad thing that the Eagles are helping Jalen Hurts? Such a weird question to ask, but it's need to be asked when I'm getting emails and there's a narrative on social media that, so what? What are they realizing the $250 million quarterback's not good enough? So they have to give him Saquon Barkley? Isn't that a smart thing? If you already invested so much in your quarterback, isn't it a good thing to try to make his life easier? Why is that a bad thing? You got to answer me that at 610-632-0975 because it makes no sense to me. And if you're not of that crazy belief and you're like me where you're just like, yeah, great, it's awesome. Let's talk about that as well because, you know, it is awesome. It makes Jalen's life easier. That is a good thing in my opinion. But for some of you out there, that's a bad thing. Or it's not a bad thing. It's an eye roll situation. I don't know. Either way, help the guy out. Cool, that's great. So we'll continue that conversation on the phones. But it's a wild time in the state of Pennsylvania right now. Crazy times in the state of Pennsylvania. Saquon Barkley signs with the Eagles. Patrick Queen goes to the Steelers, right? Some big news for the Eagles and for the Steelers. There was did you see the Russell Wilson Instagram post of his New Jersey?
Yeah.
And then there was the NFL Brazil account that put it to their story with the Brazilian flag. And now there's rumor. Could it be Eagles, Steelers in Brazil?
Can I just say that if they take Steelers, Eagles to Brazil, I am going to throw hands with the schedule makers. First, you open up my season on a Friday night. Next, you take Eagles, Steelers and put it in Brazil.
So I'm glad you said that because I said that. When did that? It was either yesterday or Tuesday. I said this to Tom. I was like, I hope I'm not being disrespectful when I say this. But part of the beauty of Eagles Steelers is the cross-state rival. It should be in the state of Pennsylvania.
I've been saying they should play that game at Beaver Stadium for years now.
Oh, find it in the middle ground?
Yes. You imagine that? 100,000 Pennsylvanians coming together? You sell 50,000 to one side, 50,000 to another?
That'd be pretty cool.
It'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
Be incredible. I mean, I don't know what you do facilities-wise. I don't care about that stuff. I just care about the pageantry.
Yeah, the Phillies play at Williamsport every once in a while. Why can't they play at Beaver Stadium? It's good. That's good knowledge. Good point out of you, right?
They should do it.
But you and I are in the same boat where part of the beauty of Eagles Steelers is the fact that it's cross-state rivals. It should be actually play in the state of Pennsylvania, and I didn't want to sound disrespectful to Brazil.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound disrespectful. I just mean, listen, you got my football team for the opener. That's wonderful. You took the season where we were supposed to have 9 home games. You get one of them. It's fine. It's fine. You can have that. What you can't have, and what I will not let you have, is Eagles Steelers.
So starts with both teams getting big free agents. Then the potential buzz that it could be Eagles Steelers in Brazil. And now, before we get to this dope and this rat, this story with the Pittsburgh Penguins is wild right now. So the Penguins have a game tonight. And tonight is Jaromir Jagr bobblehead night. And they put out a statement around 9 o'clock this morning that the shipping container, I'm guessing it was in a truck, on its way to the stadium with all the bobbleheads, got robbed. Somebody robbed the bobbleheads, the Jagr bobbleheads, en route to the Penguins arena. Crazy times. Crazy times. Now, do you think that was an orchestrated effort because somebody wanted, like, was this a heist? A bobblehead heist? Or were they just stealing a truck just to steal a truck? Or did they think it was something else? What was the most logical reason of this truck being robbed?
All I'm going to say is I was out late last night, and if you're interested in some collectibles, I may or may not have some for you.
Yeah, but who here wants a Pittsburgh Jaromir Jagr?
People burn jerseys all the time?
Yeah, but do you want to burn Jagr?
No.
He was a good flyer for a year.
I'm saying, but, you know, if If anyone's interested in some collectibles, I may have come into possession of a few.
I can't believe it. And
I can't believe it either.
So now people are getting a voucher. The people that had tickets for tonight's game will get a voucher, and they'll be able to get the bobblehead whenever the bobblehead arrives to the arena.
That's a tough one. That's a new one, really. I don't know. I mean, not that I've been incredibly tapped in on giveaway nights if anything's ever been stolen before, but this is a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that before. Now, lastly, the state of Pennsylvania. You Penn Staters out there. Look, you got to hold your coach accountable here for multiple reasons. He stinks. Like, he's not a good head coach. And I understand I'm the little Temple grad whose 3-win football team, we had our one shining moment against Penn State a couple years ago. I get it. But this is bigger than Penn State football, guys and gals. This is the sanctity of the Philadelphia Eagles, the sanctity of conversations that are behind closed doors, the sanctity of inner workings of illegal tampering during the previously to the legal tampering period. Your dope of a head coach, James Franklin, had this to say at his press conference the other day.
To come back and be able to play within the state, in Philadelphia, he said that was one of the first things that Howie said to him on the phone as part of kind of his sales pitch to him was not only the Philadelphia Eagles and that, but obviously the connection with Penn State and the fan bases as well.
So, trying to figure out what's the problem with James Franklin saying that. This was on Tuesday. The report that Saquon was coming to Philadelphia was on Monday, so he was asked about the following day. This was still during the period of legal tampering, in which team personnel still cannot come in contact with the players themselves, but their agents. James Franklin on the podium drops it's the first thing Howie said to Saquon, playing in the same state that he went to school. First of all, really not that much of a difference in terms of distance, East Rutherford and Philadelphia, because Penn State's not a Philadelphia school. Just like how Nova's not a Philadelphia school. So James Franklin right away rats out Howie Roseman. And then Mike Florio writes a story about it, because Florio has to do whatever he can to try to hurt the Eagles. Penn Staters, you got to hold your coach accountable here, because I know a lot of Penn State fans are also Eagles fans. And I know a lot of you bleed blue more than you bleed green, it seems. But if you are a bleed green first more than you're bleed blue, come on, man. You got to rip the coach a little bit. It's a violation on James Franklin.
Violation? This is a fireable offense. He's actively hurting Pennsylvania business.
I would say his entire tenure as the head coach is a fireable offense.
This is the final straw.
Great recruiter, because that's what I always hear, right? He's a great recruiter.
Oh, yeah, he's winning the offseason right now. Absolutely. The man's never lost an offseason. That guy is unbeaten in offseason bowls.
Pretty good, yes.
He has beaten just about everyone in the offseason. Problem is, and honestly, he's pretty good beginning of the season. Well, September, October, it's just when it matters, Ohio State, Michigan. That's where it ends up coming up short. But anyways, aside from that feeling on him, this is fireable offense. You're hurting Pennsylvania business. You are one of the most powerful Pennsylvanians we have, and you're actively destroying, one, the reputation of one of your finest alumni in Saquon Barkley, because now look at him. He's engaged in something that's against the rules, and that's not something you should stand for. So, one, that's a disgrace that you're doing that to your own player, your own former player like that. And on top of that, you are now trying to actively diminish an institution in this great state, this great commonwealth that we have. I'm disgusted by it, frankly, and I think this is the final straw for him. I think he has to.
I think this is also the final straw to say that Penn State's not a Philly school. Because if it was a Philly,
you did not hear a word, and no one out of the Temple camp mentioned anything potentially about Matt Hennessy, and no one went to the podium talked about that. We don't know.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
So
James Franklin,
Penn State, not a Philly school.
You blew it. You blew it.
It's what he did. Unbelievable. And then screw you, Mike Florio, too, for trying to point that out. All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Tom in Alabama. What up, Tom?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
Fine. Ray, I certainly hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great.
Hey, the deal with James Franklin, not only is he a dope, he's a moron. He's too worried about that lemonade stand in his front yard running it into the ground. That guy is the biggest joke. He should have been gone a couple years ago. You know, Penn State football, it sucks, if you want my opinion.
I wouldn't say sucks, just falls short of expectations.
You know, and then people saying about helping Hurts. What are you supposed to do? If you buy a high-end car, put generic parts in it or cheap gas, man, it's about the team in the end. It's about the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. It's about getting to 59, Super Bowl number 59, with 53 players, man. And when you get a guy like Saquon Barkley, and I have to give Harry Roseman credit here, I guess, you know, McCaffrey here is the blueprint. He looked at what he did for San Francisco, and Saquon has been untapped, man. He's been playing behind a poor offensive line. This opens up so many things on the RPO. He not only can run the ball, he's a great receiver in the middle of the field, yards after catch. And then if you get Hurts a backup quarterback, because it's about the team. It's not about Hurts. It's about winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, see, that's where you lose me a little bit, Tommy, and I appreciate the call. That's where you lose me a little bit. So, Ray, I haven't gotten your thoughts on it yet. The addition, potentially, of Justin Fields. 2 reasons why I don't want it to happen. 1, I don't want to eat crow. After calling Mike Lombardi a moron for even giving that idea last week. You know, we played the whole Jason Kelsey clip from the Super Bowl and everything. 2, we just went through this. We just went through this with Wentz. They drafted Jalen Hurts. After Nick Foles becomes a hero in the city, rightfully so, Wentz goes into his first full season as a starter with no injuries during camp, no backup quarterback talk, right? And I know they struggled a little bit, but they made it to the playoffs, and then he gets knocked out by Jadeveon Clowney. In this season, he was throwing to Greg Ward and Deontay Burnett and nobody. He was throwing to nobody. And then they drafted Jalen Hurts. And it was reported that Carson Wentz was not fond of the idea and was not happy when it happened. Now you want to risk that all over again? By trading for Justin Fields, who some NFL analysts believe is better than Jalen Hurts. We played that clip during the season last year, which was asinine. Eagles fans, not everybody, but Eagles fans wanted them to draft Justin Fields because we did not know if Jalen Hurts would be able to be a franchise quarterback. So people here in Philadelphia wanted the Eagles to draft Justin Fields. You don't think that's going to be an issue? Jalen Hurts did not necessarily have a great season last year. What if he comes out the gate a little sluggish? Now, there's no excuses this year, but if he comes out the gate a little sluggish, and then you start hearing demands for Fields to start playing quarterback, I understand. It's a beautiful thing, this mindset of maybe he needs to be pushed. Maybe he thrives under competition. I love that. That's beautiful. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he gets upset because he, too, is human, and he goes, oh, man, all right, I see how it is. And then he struggles because of it. You could either uplift your game or, as we saw with Carson Wentz, completely pee himself and not be able to handle the pressure, not be able to handle the situation. Oh, well, Hurts isn't Carson Wentz. Do you know him? Have you talked to him? I haven't. I just listened to a couple of press conferences. So, Ray, even though Tom says it's for the team, well, the best thing for the team is a happy, healthy Jalen Hurts. That's the best thing for the team and everybody else playing well. Risking him being upset, risking him not handling the situation well, could send you down another downward spiral, which we just went through last season, by the way. Different reasons, but we just had a downward spiral. And now you want to risk a backup quarterback that is actually a name that carries buzz that was once a high prospect in the NFL? This isn't Christian Pache being brought in here as a former top prospect to battle with Bryce Harper. This is Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. I think it would be a terrible idea to bring him in, even though I get what everyone's saying. Well, he's a good backup quarterback. Like I had a guy emailing me earlier today saying he'd be the best backup in the NFL. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think Justin Fields is that great of a passer. I think he's just a more athletic and younger version of Marcus Mariota right now. He could be coached up. So I don't know if he's actually the best backup quarterback in the NFL. But either way, I don't think it's a smart idea. Where are you with this, Ray?
Well, we ripped it when it came across, and I'll rip it again. I mean, I don't.
Well, we ripped it because it sounded stupid. Because
still does.
Right. It sounds stupid because it didn't sound like it would happen. And then look what happened with Saquon Barkley. And also, Lombardi's reasoning was to have a 2-quarterback set, to run plays with both on the field at the same time. Which we don't. When you have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert before the signing of Saquon Barkley, I don't need 2 quarterback sets where you're running gadget plays with just the 2 quarterbacks. No. I'd rather run a slant route with AJ Brown that seemed unstoppable last year, but they never ran it enough. So I'm guessing you're against the idea of it, not just because it sounds necessarily dumb, but why would you risk what we just went through with Wentz and Hurts?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give up whatever the asset's going to take. I know it's going to be, very cheap to get him, considering they're trying to be a backup, but I would prefer just to have whatever pick it's going to be, have whatever you would invest into that just at your disposal to use elsewhere.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to bring you back some more to this Wentz thing. I remember when Hurts got drafted, and he was asked about, for the first time being a backup quarterback. And he basically said, I forget what the exact answer was, but he gave an answer of, I didn't come in here to be a backup. I came here to try to win the starting quarterback battle or whatever, right? And people celebrated that. People were like, wow, that's really cool. And, oh, by the way, Wentz was already not necessarily in the good graces of Philadelphia. I know Hurts did not play well, and we've seen a lot of people flip already back to the Hurts isn't the guy. Not as vocal as it was with Wentz. Because Wentz had the whole Foles thing. Wentz gets hurt a second time, third time. So people were kind of done with him. I don't think people are collectively done with Jalen Hurts. What if Justin Fields gets traded here and they go, hey, how do you feel being a backup? And he goes, well, I'm a former first-round pick in the NFL. I still envision myself being a starter here, and that's what I'm going to try to do here in Philadelphia or whatever. Is that celebrated? Or is that, whoa, this is Jalen's job? And how's Jalen handle it?
Yeah, you're probably just hoping that he gives the Jameis Winston answer of God called me to be a backup quarterback.
Right.
I think that's what you're hoping he says, because
one thing for 30-year-old Jameis, or however old he is at this point, maybe late 20s, compared to third year, entering fourth year Justin Fields in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't like the fit. I understand you need to do something at backup quarterback if they go into the season with Tanner McKee as the backup. I understand some preseason warriors are going to love that because they're like, yeah, I watched him pass against guys who ended up playing in the United Football League this spring, and he looked really good, and Tanner McKee should be the backup. Remember when Marcus didn't look good? He should have been the backup then, too. I won't feel comfortable if he's number 2, so they do need to address the backup quarterback situation.
Yeah, they have to.
I don't think trading for Fields is the avenue that I would go down to do that for a lot of the reasons of just the noise that would surround it.
Right. I just don't think
it's a loud acquisition.
Worth the risk. It's not worth the risk, especially when Jalen Hurts did not play well the last 6 weeks of the season last year. And everybody keeps on coming back to, well, it would be good for his competition, and he'll handle it better than Wentz. We don't know that.
Also, he needs a competitor to go out there and have the season. Was there any competition going into the Super Bowl year?
No.
Gardner Minshew came in. A few of you lunatics thought that was some sort of competition, but really, in the end, he had his best season when it was just focus on football.
Yes.
Get yourself back to the level, get yourself really to the level that you think you can play. And playing for, in a bright offensive mind trust.
And now all of a sudden we need to push him more.
Right.
When he was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
He doesn't need competition. He needs competent coaching, and he needs talent around him.
Well, we'll find out if there is legs to this, which we have found out that there is legs to it, but just how many legs are there to this. Rob Maaddi, old buddy at the station, does a tremendous job covering the NFL for the Associated Press. He'll be joining us coming up at 11:30. Going to talk to him about everything that the Eagles have done so far this offseason and what they still could do. And the Justin Fields thing will be brought up. So we'll talk to Rob coming up at 11:30. We have Field Yates from ESPN, who I love. I think he does a great job covering the league, breaking. Like, he does it all. He's like a jack of all trades guy at ESPN. Breaks news, covers the league. Also does like the fantasy football stuff, a million things at ESPN. He's a fun guy to talk to, so he'll be joining us coming up at 12:30. But Rob Maaddi before that. Also coming up next, before we get to Rob, I'm going to play you some clips from James Palmer, who joined the best show ever yesterday. And, you know, he said two things about the defense. One that when I heard it, I was kind of worried about. The other that kind of keeps me intrigued with this offseason because, as I've been trying to tell you, Ray, that this will be a fun offseason. It's already been a fun offseason. Roll your eyes all you want. It's been a freaking fun offseason, and it will continue to be a fun offseason because they're just linked to everybody. James Palmer talked about what else the Eagles could do this offseason, but before that, he said something that kind of freaked me out a little bit. We'll play those clips before we get to Rob Maaddi next, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. Thefanatic.com.
It is 11:18 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. Our 11 o'clock hour brought to us by Golden Nugget Jewelers. That's where Philly gets engaged. Coming up at 11:30, we'll be joined by my old buddy Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. Had the pleasure of doing a couple of shows with Rob when he was still here at The Fanatic. Great guy and is very tapped into everything going on in the NFL. So can't wait to talk to him about what the Eagles have done so far this offseason, what is still to come with the Eagles this offseason. And I'm going to play some clips from James Palmer because he said some stuff that I liked and didn't like at the same time with the best show ever. But before that, dude, when did you get home? Yesterday night?
I got back to my apartment like 2:30, 2:45.
Oh, in the afternoon or morning?
Morning.
Oh, like this morning?
Like this morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have not been able to enjoy the beautiful weather here in the Delaware Valley.
No,
yet.
I have not. I'll be honest. It was nice down in Texas
Okay.
as well. So
All right. Well, that's good.
I'm not exactly weeping on that one.
So yesterday was just an incredible, wow, it's so much easier when it's nice out there. Because Cooper was just picking up pine cones and, running all over the place, which is a lot better than sitting in the house and, reading the same, 6 books over and over and over again because he has his favorites. Sometimes you just get tired reading the same books. If he wants to go pick up pine cones, I'm all for it at this point.
I think that's nice. I think that's a much better setup for you.
Yeah, also really nice enjoying a beer outside.
That's what I saw your tweet, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm excited for this afternoon.
So,
Not that I'm looking past the show to the afternoon beer, but I will say
that's
it is
fine.
weighing on the mind.
the afternoon outdoor beer season launched yesterday at the Salchunas household. Today's another big day. I told you, it's landscaping day. It's yard work day, which means today is post-yard work beer season. Launches today.
I'm excited for you.
Big time in my life.
I think I'm going to go set up my lawn chair on my little small patch of grass that's
Hey.
no longer a patch of grass because we've used it kind of as an extra parking spot, so now it's kind of messed up.
But
kind
it's
of muddy,
outside.
but it's outside, and I think I'm going to sit there and enjoy one.
As you should, because that's some of the great gifts from the Lord above. The beautiful weather in the middle of March, and then we'll all be freezing cold by, this weekend, I'm pretty sure. But
Really?
I think
I'm
it's
not a weather guy.
Like back in the 40s. Which you get these are teaser days, man. Like it's in the 70s.
It's fake spring.
It's gonna be 70 today, and then high of 50 on Monday, 46 on Tuesday. Yeah, it dips back into the 40s and 50s next week. So enjoy your next couple of days. Make the most of it. All right. So James Palmer was on with the best show ever yesterday. He joins them pretty frequently. Does a tremendous job on the NFL Network, and he was all over a lot of stuff when it came to the Eagles. I loved his report on the NFL Network the other day that signing Saquon was also to help Kellen Moore because of what Kellen Moore's system is. We know that sometimes Howie just does things to the beat of his own drum. I like that this works with Kellen Moore's system. That's good. And I love that it was Kellen Moore's system, not this is what Nick and Kellen want. It's Kellen Moore's system. I really appreciated the wording from James Palmer on the NFL Network the other day. Well, yesterday when we joined the best show ever, I'll play the one that I'm not necessarily fond of first. This is cut 3, Ray. He talks about a player they're relying to take a big jump this upcoming season.
But they're relying on a big jump from Nolan Smith in year 2. I mean, they really do see a player that can really make some damage getting after the quarterback. Now, there were times in training camp when I was talking to people there that were like, there's times where he's just unblockable. Like the athleticism and the speed off the edge from Nolan Smith, there were times where they were like, oh, my gosh. But then as the season went on, the NFL, and your initial get-off is never going to be, you get off and you get straight to the quarterback. I mean, there's usually 2 plays within every play, and when it really kind of broke down, they saw that he needs to get stronger. Like he needs to improve his strength. And then when, he was kind of battling through a shoulder issue and stuff and toughing it out and things like that, then, that got probably magnified a little bit. So if he can get stronger and he can make the jump in year 2 that they're I don't want to say predicting, but they're hopefully optimistic about, that'll provide some of the help opposite of Chuck.
See, now this is what I'm worried about. They're not wrong into relying on a big jump. He was a first-round pick last year, right? Like you need your first-round picks to start and to make impacts, right? Which is why I still don't understand the Jordan Davis draft pick when you could have had Kyle Hamilton, who, and this is before Kyle Hamilton became an all-pro. He would have been an every down player, starter, and at a position where it's not a rotating position. And yet they took Jordan Davis. And I didn't hate the pick. It's just I wanted Kyle Hamilton. So Nolan Smith they bring in the first round, so now they're relying on him to take a leap forward. That's fair, right? My problem is everything else that he's saying, because there's a PR tour right now to try to boost the excitement for Nolan Smith. Howie Roseman himself said it at the Combine when he talked about, we need to play some of our younger players, right? And then was glowing of Nolan Smith. He did the same thing with Nakobe Dean after the season came to an end. So he's really trying to pump up these younger players as guys that need to take a step forward for the Eagles next year. At the end there, he says, if Nolan Smith can get stronger and stay healthy, that will help opposite Huff. So that basically tells me it could be the Huff and Nolan Smith show, which I don't think that's good enough yet. I just don't. I think Nolan Smith could still become something. I liked the pick. I was shocked they got him at 30. Remember, there was a lot of talk that he could have been their 10th overall pick, or that they could have traded back a few spots and drafted him. They got him at 30. So I was excited for it. And I was disappointed they didn't play much last year. And I think that was a total mistake by Sean Desai and then Matt Patricia. That's part of the reason why Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat had fall-offs the second half of the season. They were cooked because they played so many snaps. But to go into the season and putting the bread in the basket of Nolan Smith being the other starting edge rusher along, on the other side of Bryce Huff is a little concerning to me. Yeah, a little concerning.
I don't like it in the slightest.
Because now they mentioned him needing to get stronger. I talked about this a lot. I saw plays where he did get to the quarterback and, slipped off. Like, he just dropped. Like, it's as if he ran into a brick wall. And that was it. And that's not good. This is not me doubting Nolan Smith. It's just I don't think he's ready for that jump yet. And they're kind of forcing the jump if they end up moving on from both Reddick and Josh Sweat.
Now, this does play into your patience on defense.
It does, but once you get Saquon Barkley, everything changes, dude.
Once you get Saquon Barkley, you invest money into the offense.
Yeah, but it's not really a bad cap hit. Like, if they come back, if the news, they rework the deal out with Hassan Reddick, and it's Huff and Reddick, and then your rotating pieces are Brandon Graham and Nolan Smith, let's go. Right? Sounds good to me. Sign me up. I'm all for it. If it's Huff and Nolan Smith, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. Now, James Palmer then continued to talk about the edge rusher, because he's still talking about potentially trading Reddick and Sweat, but that Howie might have something else up his sleeve.
Now, we'll see if they end up moving on from both of these guys, but I think the Huff deal obviously shows you that they're ready and willing. And here's the thing. With Howie, free agency just started. If they end up moving one of these guys, maybe somebody else comes in as well, right? And maybe there's another part of that rotation. I thought Philly was best up front when they rotated guys. And you saw all the snaps that Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick played this past year, and I think that impacted both of their success a little bit. They were playing more snaps than they usually do. Same with the guys in the middle. So we'll see if they get a little bit deeper. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. Howie can't help himself on the edge.
So hopefully that's the case. Now, we got Rob Maaddi coming up in about 2.5 minutes, so I'll get to a call before we get to him. But, Ray, real quick, I asked Tom this question. For the right price, because he's still out there, at least unless I missed something last night, if Chase Young's value continues to go down, that's somebody I have an eye on. Because remember, we did the upcoming free agents day after the season ended, and they did the estimated value. He was 2 for $26. Everyone else was 4-year, 5-year. He was 2-year, $26 million. And it seemed like there's a falling off in terms of the belief that Chase Young can be the guy he once was before all the injuries sustained with the Commanders. If that's the case, you taking a flyer on him if it drops a little bit more?
Hard pressed not to.
Exactly. And everyone's pointing out the lack of effort in the NFC Championship game and everything like that. Just keep an eye on Chase Young. If that's a Howie move. If the number continues to drop, he hasn't necessarily played to the standard just yet. Hey, reclamation project, you come here, you get paid after us. The antennas are up. Let's go to Joe in Philly. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's up, brother?
Let me start off.
No,
It doesn't get misconstrued where I'm coming from.
all right, hold on. You're breaking up. Say that again.
I said, let me start off real quick with where I'm coming from, so don't get misconstrued with my point.
Okay.
I love I love what they've done so far. However, and I love the Saquon signing. I really believe he's going to have a impact, sort of like Christian did with the 49ers. But that aside, and I love that Gardner's back. Definitely love that move. But, and I know you can't get everything all at once. But my thing is, everybody knows that big concern was the middle of the defense, and it just seems like we're 4 days in now to this free agency, and I'm concerned. I mean,
do you think he's done?
Who?
Howie.
I wouldn't say done. I mean, I guess I would have liked if you was hearing, like, there was already rumors out there about Saquon and the Eagles and Gardner and the Eagles, but there's nothing in regards to them filling that hole in the middle.
Well, maybe there's nobody out there right now. Maybe they have to make a trade, and you can't put those rumors out there.
True.
They might be. There might be a linebacker that's already on a roster that they might need to make a trade for.
And this is the other thing. I even consider maybe they're looking to draft one, but can we really? That part is definitely scary about them getting it right with getting a linebacker, starting linebacker no less, out of the draft.
Oh, I understand. I mean, Nakobe Dean, there's still question marks surrounding him. Davion Taylor ended up being a colossal bust or disappointment, whatever you want to term it. So I understand where you're coming from, Joe, but after a while, you got to keep on trying, right? You got to keep on trying, and that's probably something that they're going to do, and I appreciate the call, brother. That's probably something they're going to do. I understand the concerns surrounding linebacker and defense after getting Saquon Barkley. I keep on saying it. I get it. I hear you. It's not going to take away from my excitement for what the Eagles did, though. Now let's head to the Comcast Business Hotline. I'm glad he's coming on today. My man from the AP, senior NFL writer and insider, and an alumni of 97.5 The Fanatic, the great Rob Maaddi. Robbie, what's up, man?
Andrew, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great. How is everything? How's Florida treating you?
It's great, man. I'm trying to get over to Philly spring training, but free agency this week has been killing me. I can't even take a shower right now.
What? There's been moves around the NFL and not just with the Eagles this week?
Oh, it's wild, man. It's wild, but it's kind of finally slowing down. It's crazy because everybody's looking forward to 4 o'clock on Wednesday, but it's really anticlimactic because everything's happening on Monday.
Oh, yeah.
And Tuesday, and by the time Wednesday comes, it's, who's still out there, who's still remaining, and there's still some guys, of course, but yeah, it's a big week for the Eagles and a bad week for the Cowboys, so that's got to make a lot of people in Philly happy.
Yeah, it's been a fun couple of days here, Rob. I think that's the one thing you probably miss most about being up here. It's been really fun here the last couple of days. So let's talk about what the Eagles have done so far. First, let the big name is Saquon Barkley. Are you surprised they did it? Because it's not something that Howie Roseman and the Eagles typically do, allocate that much resources to the running back position. But obviously, he's a very talented player. So what are your thoughts on the addition of Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, you're right. It's obviously something that the Eagles don't normally do, and Howie wasn't in charge when they pulled the trigger on DeMarco Murray a few years ago. Mm-hmm. That was all chipped. So I think the influx of money from the salary cap going up as much as it did, a lot of teams hadn't counted on that. They gave the Eagles the leeway, the leverage to be able to go out there and kind of – it's like when you're going out and you're trying to buy a really nice car and you think, all of a sudden you get a nice bonus or whatever it may be, and you go up a level, right? You go up a different class. And I think it's something like that. They were looking to bring in a running back. They knew DeAndre Swift's number wasn't going to be something that they were comfortable with. And Saquon's a guy that if he stays healthy, and that's the only question, he's very productive, and I think he's a good locker room fit. He's a good player. He's a good person. And it made a ton of sense for the Eagles for what they were able to pay him. So as much as it's outside the box of what Howie normally does, in this particular instance, and for the money, 26 guaranteed, 337.5, whatever the final totals are, it makes sense for the Eagles. And I think it just adds another dimension to this offense. And when you bring in Kellen Moore and his emphasis on running the football, this team's going to be difficult to stop on offense. Now, you still got to make up for the loss of Jason Kelce. I think that's a big loss, losing him and his leadership ability. And not only that, I mean, he's a six-time All-Pro, first-ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And what he was able to bring as far as reading defenses, understanding the assignments, and everything else, that's going to be a big loss. So you still got to figure out a way. I know Cam Jurgens is ticketed to go over there to center, but adding Saquon Barkley and then Devontae Parker is kind of a little under the radar move. Another guy, if he's healthy and he's able to contribute, I think can add a little bit along with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. So the offense to me looks like it's set. It's that defensive side of the football that they got to take care of. And CJGJ is one step towards it. I like Zach Bond too, Andrew. I think although he's primarily a special teamer, he got some more snaps for the Saints last year, and he can get to the quarterback. So Howie still got work to do. We got to figure out what he's going to do with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, and I think there's some more major moves to drop.
Have you heard anything on the Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat front? Like the Sweat, he puts out the post, I'm going to miss you all, and then it just seems to have died off. I think we were all waiting for something to happen yesterday when the new league year started, and there hasn't been anything yet. It doesn't have to happen today, but anything trending in any sort of direction for both Sweat and Reddick at this moment?
I'm not hearing much as of right now, other than this is something that is probably going to be rectified by the time we get to the draft, and it could be one of those the week of the draft, because the Eagles got a lot of picks with those compensations coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And you're looking at a possible, you got a first, 2 seconds, a third, 3 fifths. There's a ton of picks and maneuverability, and we know how Howie likes to add picks, to move up if he sees somebody. I just wonder if you look at the surplus of draft picks and Sweat and Reddick and how they can use that maybe to move up to get somebody that they may be targeting in the top 10 or even potentially top 8 of the draft, top 7 of the draft. So I certainly think there's going to be a resolution on one of those guys, and I don't see how both are going to be back, that's for sure.
So if Sweat's gone, is Reddick back? And if he's back, is it under the current deal or is it restructured and extended?
Yeah, that's the big-time question there, because he certainly wants more money. They're giving him that opportunity to explore, and I think smartly so, because if as bad as he wants more money and he feels he's earned it and he's done a tremendous job for the Eagles, if you go out there and your agent's on the open market and teams aren't willing, and of course obviously it's got to take a trade right now, but teams aren't expressing that kind of interest in putting those dollars, that puts the Eagles in a better renegotiating position.
Right.
So I think they eventually, if he stays, they're going to take care of him one way or another, make him happy, whether it's restructuring to guarantee more money and give him more money for this year and then allow him to walk or something along those lines, where I don't think they're going to want to have a disgruntled player in any way, shape, or form inside that locker room. And I don't think Hassan Reddick would be that guy. I think he handled things tremendously well. I just was there the last game of the season, Andrew, when they lose to the Buccaneers. He's the last guy in the locker room, and, man, he was talking for like 20, 25 minutes, and there was no indication that he was really unhappy or that he wasn't planning on coming back. So if Sweat's gone, I think they find a way to keep Reddick. I just don't think both guys are going to be moving on. That to me would be a major redo on the defense, especially with Fletcher Cox gone. Like, as much as I love BG coming back, he's more of a situational guy and a leader in the locker room right now, and they got to find a way to get to the quarterback.
I've been willing to close the book on last season, but every once in a while you continue to shake your head and think, oh my God, they went from 10-1 to 11-6. When you have the kind of offseason they've had so far, and there's the expectation that they're not done yet defensively, they can't be done yet. What is Nick Sirianni's life like going into next year? I mean, there has to be a ton of pressure. There's always pressure on the head coach, but after a collapse like that and then the splashy moves they made so far, what's the life of Nick Sirianni like going into week one?
a ton of pressure, especially when there was so much speculation that in that 2-3 day window after the loss to the Buccaneers that he may not be back. You don't go from potentially losing your job or the sentiment that you're going to lose your job or should, because I know a lot of people in Philly were calling for him to be fired, to coming in here feeling like your life is set. Like if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm not making big purchases or adding any major renovations to my house in South Jersey right now, because he's got to go out there this year and he's got to win. They got to produce, and I don't think there's going to be a day that goes by that he doesn't think about 10-1 to the way things ended. That's got to be eating at him, gnawing at him constantly, daily, and that was just one of the epic major collapses. Now they're positioned well to bounce back from that, and I think when you look around the division and see that, I don't, as much as the Commanders are making a ton of moves right now, I don't see how they're going to be contenders. They still need a quarterback. As long as Daniel Jones is the Giants quarterback, I can't take them seriously. And nobody's repeated in the NFC East in 20-plus years. And Dallas losing 3 starters right now, potentially another one, because it doesn't look like they're going to bring back their left tackle, Tyron Smith. I think the Eagles are, despite the collapse and despite the question marks that we have about their defense right now, I would look at them as the front runner for the NFC East, as you and I are talking right here on March 14th.
So going back to the defense, where do you think the Eagles are going to focus on most for what is next? There's still questions at linebacker. There's still questions at safety. There's still questions about cornerback because you don't know what's going to happen with James Bradbury. And as of right now, I know they're doing the Nolan Smith PR tour. I sniffed right through that stuff. Oh, they're expecting great things out of him next year. I'm not really fond of a Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith 1-2 punch to start the season. So if you were to guess, Rob, of those 5 positions, where are they going to focus on most, especially that suits the Vic Fangio scheme?
Yeah, I think they got to address what they're going to do at cornerback, because that's such a major position, and obviously that's how you got to stop teams in their big-time wide receivers. And it looks like something's got to be done with James Bradbury. There was a drop-off last year, a significant one, and I don't know how you can count on him. There's a couple guys out there, Andrew, that I keep an eye on that I thought might have been picked up by now. Kendall Fuller, he's about 29 years old.
Yep.
He'd be somebody that he played for Washington last year. He'd be somebody that I would look, if he's available at the right price and something's done with Bradbury, that you may consider. You look at Xavier Howard, who's been a really good player, and you wonder, he's 30 now, how much does he have left? He did make the Pro Bowl in 2022, but everybody makes the Pro Bowl. It's not like he was an All-Pro that year. Those are guys that could be stopgap guys that you may look at, but I think you got to address, you got to make sure that the cornerback position is shored up, because that's where you get hurt, man. You get hurt in the NFL that way, and of course they want to get to the quarterback. You got to figure out who's going to be your edge rushers, your pass rushers, who's going to do that. Nolan Smith, to me, has the tools and the skills and the talent. He's got to get that opportunity. He's got to go out there and live up to his first-round status. I thought the Eagles were going to draft him early last year before all those moves, and he ends up going to the Eagles anyway, but late at the 29th, 28th, whatever pick that was. So I don't think that the linebacker position still is going to be addressed to the Philadelphia Eagles fans' liking. They're counting on the Kobe Dean, man. They're counting on him to come back, and we'll see what he can do. If this kid's healthy, and that's been a problem, but last year it was an issue with, it was a foot issue that was caused that he said it was the cleats that Nike no longer manufactured them, so he had to go back, and he's going to be, when he comes back, he's going to wear the same cleats that they still had at Georgia for him. So maybe that helps. I don't know, but he's got to live up to his billing too as well.
Oh, absolutely. Now, last thing before I let you go, I'm just curious. How deep does the NFL investigate the Eagles with James Franklin's comments the other day?
Well, if you're going to investigate the Eagles, you better look into the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, yeah.
Because Kirk Cousins, like, that deal was shored up in 90 minutes.
They drew up a whole contract, Rob, in 90 minutes. It must be a one-page contract.
And then he slipped up yesterday when he mentioned a meeting with calling the head athletic trainer. Well, you can't do any of that. So
Oh my God.
if the NFL is going to look into the Eagles, they better look into the Falcons, and then they better look into each and every deal that was locked in by 12:55 or whatever it was. I think they got it. They're going to have to say, hey, be careful, don't do this. Certainly don't tell anybody that you did this, but they can't punish everyone for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. Always great talking to you, dude. You sound great. You're doing a great job at the AP, and I'm glad you're enjoying the beautiful sunshine down in Florida.
Appreciate it, brother. Go Phils.
Go Phils. There he is, Rob Maaddi on the Comcast Business Hotline. A good man. Good man, now living in Florida, doing his thing. Lead reporter, insider for the Associated Press. Some interesting stuff there. Nolan Smith, man. Just got to get that opportunity. Come on, Chase Young. Come here on a cheaper deal. We'll rotate. He's going to play. I want him to play more. He played very few snaps last year.
That's not the Georgia linebacker that I'm concerned about.
Yeah. And the Kobe Dean.
Not what I'm worried about.
I have a question that I got to ask you guys coming up next, because there's a lot of people that are probably still worried about the Saquon signing because of how that may impact their additions at linebacker. What if linebacker was once again never in their plans? Are you okay with that? We'll talk about it next. 610-632-0975. Also, the proposed rule changes. We got to run through them. The Eagles gave 2. One of them I actually like. I'll tell you what that is next as well, right here. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 11:52 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. I heard a little stager going to the break, Ray. We got a major programming announcement this time tomorrow.
That's what they're telling me.
Or 24 hours and 8 minutes from now. All right. Well, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we got a major program announcement. All right. Looks like we're doing that. 12 o'clock tomorrow. You'll hear more stagers playing. Don't you worry. 12 o'clock tomorrow. Major station announcement.
The 24-hour tease.
Oh, yeah. 24 hours, 7 minutes. Now, got a bone to pick with somebody.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, that's not.
Oh, just instinct.
And, we'll get to the proposed rule changes in a second. But Anthony Perry sends me an email. Sends me a lot of emails. I appreciate it. I can't get to all of them, so I apologize. So he asks about Justin Fields. Why wouldn't you want Fields as a backup for $2.5 million and a 5th-round pick? Fair start to the email. I hate that it always has to get to this. You and Ray are young guys who sometimes seem like you know nothing. It's the youth, Ray. It's the youth. Who do you guys want? And please give me names. And please stop talking about how Hurts's feelings may be hurt. All right, Aunt Perry. My man. First off, the whole youth thing is just completely ridiculous. I went on a rant the other day, Ray, that I think you would appreciate. I don't know what Anthony Perry's age is, but if he's talking down to us in terms of our age, which shows that we know nothing, I would imagine he's older than me, which is 30. I think that's a fair guess. On Monday, during legal tampering day, we were getting all the news in the world about how Saquon could be coming here. But what about the defense? What about the safeties? What about the corners? What about the linebackers? I'm trying to say, hey, relax. Then Tuesday happened. It was reaction day. Yeah, but what about linebacker? What about safety? What about... Now, I can tell you, Ray, the majority of the callers on Tuesday that were panicking were still worried that the Eagles would not add to the defense and didn't let the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson thing play out, even though they were linked to safeties, linebackers, corners. And, oh, by the way, they did add Bryce Huff. Just using my trained ear, it sounded like a lot of the callers were older than me. Aren't the millennials supposed to be the microwave society that needs everything right away? How come the older callers that were calling in the other day, the older Eagles fans, were so worried that they didn't do anything else yet? When we're supposed to, they're supposed to be the ones that preach patience to us, Ray. See, don't start a war just because I'm 30. Don't start a war with the millennial here. No, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You just want everything handed to you right away. Here's what I'll tell you, Mr. Perry. We all just went through this with Wentz. We all just went through this where Wentz had a freaking meltdown. Don't tell me how Hurts's feelings might get hurt. Okay. What if they do? What if he does not handle it well? And that everything just completely falls apart again? Was that fun? Was the 4-11-1 season a good time?
I would say no.
I didn't enjoy myself. You know why I really didn't enjoy myself other than just being an Eagles fan? I was doing the post-game show that year with Jamie. That was horrible. That was not fun. Doing a post-game show for a 4-11-1 team and having to hear Carson Wentz tell me how close they were and Doug and, they just got to work on a couple of plays. They sucked, okay? And that's why Wentz and Peterson ended up leaving. So you want to potentially risk that again. What, are we trying to learn who Hurts is all about? I don't care. I don't need to learn about Hurts. But if you want some names, okay, there are still free agent quarterbacks available. Yeah, you can make the case that they're not as good as Justin Fields. Ryan Tannehill's out. I would not bring in Jimmy Garoppolo for the same reason. There's way too much storyline that follows Jimmy Garoppolo coming here. Tyler Huntley's a name that's been brought up a couple times. He was the backup to Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, won a few games. Teddy Bridgewater is still a name out there. Josh Dobbs is a name out there. I don't know how much these guys are going to get paid. But I'm looking at the quarterbacks that have actually won a couple of games. Like, I'm not going to give you Garrett Gilbert, okay? I'm not going to give you Trevor Siemian. I'm not going to give you A.J. McCarron. Tannehill, Bridgewater, Huntley, Dobbs. Can you imagine if they brought in Wentz? That's not going to happen.
Oh, I was looking at another Eagles legend there.
Who?
Nate Sudfeld.
Nate Sudfeld. Nate the Great. Yeah, he's a free agent.
Literally the quarterback factory. Literally.
I don't understand, and forget, I pop off when the whole youth thing comes up. You don't know anything because how young you are. You know what? Maybe it's actually a good thing because Carson Wentz, I'm about his age. He did not handle that pressure well at all. Why do we just expect Hurts to be okay with it?
I'm about Hurts' age. So, right there, maybe I understand it. I don't, but maybe I do. Yeah, the youth thing, whatever. When I get my working papers, you all are in for a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm finally old enough to
drive. When you graduate high school, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are all in for some trouble.
But, we just went through this. That's my biggest thing. You know what, Ant? In a perfect world, that'd be great. Justin Fields comes here. You give up a 5th-round pick for him. If Hurts goes down, your season's not over, even though it probably is. But there's other implications. There's other factors to it. Now, if Jalen Hurts makes it clear to Howie that he's okay with it, that's one thing. Because Carson Wentz apparently, reportedly made it clear that he wasn't in favor of drafting Jalen Hurts. If Hurts goes, whatever, man, I don't care. If that's a good move for the team, then I'm all for it. But I don't know, in a year where leadership was...
Mm-hmm, that's it, right there.
Leadership was literally being questioned.
If you do that move a year after leadership was questioned, though there are very few holdovers left, the message you're signaling by doing that is not necessarily that, we're moving on from this guy, but it's not the greatest ringing endorsement of your guy.
No, of course not. And I know how I could spin it. Hey, this is good for us. Barely.
Of course you can.
$2.5 million is nothing, which is true. All this is accurate. Justin Fields would actually be a great backup.
Yes.
Justin Fields doesn't want to be a backup.
No.
Right? He's a former first-round pick, and he's just here because they have a better opportunity right now to draft a quarterback at the top of the board. But, man, I just don't think it's worth playing with fire like that. Unless Hurts is clear to the Eagles front office, the team, the $250 million quarterback. We're talking about how there's a ridiculous narrative out there that helping Hurts on the field is a bad thing by adding Saquon Barkley. I think it's a good thing to try to help ensure that your highest investment, your most expensive investment, your biggest investment is as comfortable on the field as possible. Isn't it probably also a good thing for your investment to be comfortable with everything else around him as well? Oh, no, we should push him. What if he can't handle it? We don't know that.
Does he need to be pushed?
No, to your point, 2 years ago, there was no pushing. The only pushing that was happening was the tush push. And they got to a Super Bowl. All right, let's go to the phones. 610-632-0975. The Justin Fields thing is still being debated. You young whippersnappers, you Utes. You two Utes don't know what you're talking about because you're young. Whatever. I'll get you some proposed rule changes in a second, but let's go to Chris in California. What up, Chris?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Good. I appreciate listening to you guys. But I'm getting so freaking tired of this Justin Fields topic. Dude, I mean, all you guys are offering with Justin Fields is a younger, quicker version of Jalen Hurts. I mean, what is his problem right now is delivering the ball.
Oh, no, he can't throw a football. So, okay. That's the other thing. People right, exactly. People were like, oh, but Justin Fields, former first-round pick. Well, yeah, he also can't throw a football. I watched because the Eagles played primetime every single week, so I watched enough Bears game, and I watched them losing a lot, and he could not throw them back into football games.
Right. He's a runner. He's a first read kind of quarterback, and then if it's not there, I'm going to go ahead and run. So no, I think you need a quarterback that's going to go through his progressions, and if there's a need to run to get the first down, whatever the case may be, then go ahead and do that. But there's a reason why we have wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. Deliver them the ball. So I think with the right system, the right coaching, and all of everything that would mean to a quarterback, leadership, where he's from, this person's hometown is only 81 miles away from the Lincoln Financial Field. He went to the University of Pittsburgh. He got benched for this guy that should frickin' be out of the league already, has multiple opportunities, and he doesn't even seem like he's a leader himself. He's just a selfish, high-ego loser. Go get Kenny Pickett. He's a right system. He would be the right quarterback for this system. He can deliver every possibly ball to these weapons that we have. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Now we got Saquon Barkley. I mean, we can run a balanced offense, and he's on a rookie deal right now. Let's make that deal happen. You know, they didn't care about Carson Wentz's feelings, and I don't even really care about Carson Wentz's feeling anymore because of what happened. I don't care about Jalen Hurts' feelings. I care about this roster. I care about this.
All right, so you're not worried about the whole Fields implications of how Hurts could handle it. You just think he stinks, so let's go after Kenny Pickett instead.
I think that Jalen Hurts is a risk to jeopardize this talented team. He's a risk at regressing still. He's a risk at getting injured. I think he's a risk, and I wouldn't want to put. I mean,
yeah, but you think Kenny Pickett's much better?
I think he can be. Yes, I think he can. I followed the kid from when Howie went down and watched the North Carolina.
Yeah,
game.
I remember that. Wasn't that the fake slide game?
Yeah. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if that was the game or not. It may have been before that, but that's when Sam Howell and
yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. I appreciate the call, Chris. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can go from Fields stinks, but I got a better option, Kenny Pickett. And by the way, by all accounts, I don't know if the Steelers are willing to move on from him. Like, Wilson's there on, a 1-year deal, and it's kind of a prove-it deal. Now, I can't imagine that Pickett's very happy about this right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kenny Pickett. You earned your right to be unhappy.
Yeah. Kenny
Pickett's not the answer either.
I agree that Fields stinks. Or not. I
don't agree with that.
Fields needs to work on his throwing ability, big time. Kenny Pickett is not like, Fields stinks, but let's get Kenny Pickett. Tyrone just texted me, Kenny Pickett, question mark.
It's going to be a revenge game, week 1, Brazil.
Yeah, that's right,
Kenny Pickett and the Birds against Russell Wilson and the Steelers. Tune in Friday night.
I don't need to run the risk of bringing in one of these big, and maybe it's because I'm poisoned by it because I just saw it happen.
I'm not even poisoned by the whole Carson situation as much as it is an unnecessary noise. We already are having this conversation about leadership following this season. We're already having the conversation about, is he going to get back to the level we saw in 2022? I don't need more noise in a situation that, to me, already has plenty of it.
Yeah,
there's already been too much.
There's already complaints about his potential poor leadership qualities.
There's already too much made of a lot to me about all this with him that I don't need the, wow, they brought in Justin Fields. What does that mean for him? Or, well
right.
Wow.
Or what if he doesn't handle it well? I don't even need the talking heads. What if he just says, oh, man, I don't like this. I don't know. Oh, don't worry about his feelings. Maybe you should, because it didn't work out with Wentz. All right, the proposed rule changes. There's one from the Eagles that I really like. Now, the Eagles proposed 2, and a lot of teams are in favor of this one still, it seems like. Instead of the onside kick, the 4th and 20. I would imagine you have a better chance with the 4th and 20.
I'm just imagining dropping back. You got the guys playing the sticks. The first time that someone completes the 4th and 20 against the Birds for the onside kick.
And it was the Eagles that really pushed it.
6-1-0.
Yeah.
6-3-2. That would be a day for us. I honestly, I'm for it. Why not?
I think so, too, just because the onside kick, all the rules now basically made it impossible at this point. But I also understand, like, it's supposed to be difficult.
Right. I kind of would I don't mind seeing the onside kick stay in football. Like, I think it's, especially for what it presents.
Well, it would stay, but you could opt into doing the 4th and 20 instead.
Right.
I wonder if more teams would do the 4th and 20 than the onside kick.
I think the 4th and 20 would send the onside kick.
Probably
to
its
the
grave.
Yeah.
The Colts proposed coaches to challenge any penalty on the field, which, remember they did that with the pass interference, which was just completely mishandled.
Nope.
The Lions submitted a rule change for coaches to get 3 challenges, even if they don't get the first 2 successfully, which
maybe just get it right.
Just get it right. Yeah. Because right now you get a third if you get both right. The Lions want, if you get at least 1 right, you get a third. Like, Dan Campbell, what are you trying to do? Make your life easier? Like, because you challenge everything? Like, stop. No, you have to get both right to get the third. And 1. Come on, man. The Bills want the NFL to allow practice squad quarterbacks to be eligible to serve as the emergency third quarterback on game days. That's to try to free up an extra roster spot. The current rule requires that the third quarterback be a part of the 53-man roster. The emergency quarterback's probably never really going to play, so I guess this rule doesn't really matter, but it's a way to manipulate the roster a little bit. The Steelers proposed moving the trade deadline back 1 week. I saw this a couple weeks ago, that it's not just the Steelers that want this, and it's to avoid tanking. So if you push the trade deadline back like an extra week or 2, it's a way to try to avoid teams from tanking, giving up trading a bunch of players away early on in the season when they're still in the running for a playoff spot. I read that. I think it was one of the Mike Florio stories a couple weeks ago. So they wanted to move it back. I don't know what the Steelers' reasoning is, but one of the things I read was to avoid tanking in the NFL.
Tyrone just mentioned that they're going towards the 18-week schedule, so I think they're trying to move it back.
That could be it
now
too.
Before you get to that.
But tanking was another thing that I read.
The tanking would be weird to me because you could just, if you lose another game, aren't you more inclined to sell off? Like some team could be another loss deeper off the standings.
Could be.
So
I don't know. It's just something that popped up. The Jags would like the NFL to make available the raw Hawkeye replay feed in the coach's booth rather than only in the replay booth. So the camera shot above. I'm surprised they didn't already have that.
Well, us football guys been asking for that one for years, man. I don't know how you just came to this.
That's a good call by the Jags. They should have everything at their disposal if they're trying to challenge. You only have 25 seconds to challenge, plus sometimes less, depending on if the other team's running up to the line of scrimmage.
Nah, go with your gut, man. If you think you saw it, you throw it.
Now, the Eagles one that I really like is putting tenths of a second in the final minute of each half. I do like that. Just so that you know exactly how much time you have left. How many times have we seen the field goal where there was 2 seconds left on the clock and then it ticks down to 0 for whatever reason? It happens all the time. And it's home field cooking, right? The clock, whoever's on the clock, I guess. But I like the idea of the tenths of a second.
Yeah, sure.
You got 1 play left. You got 2/10 of a second left.
Fine. I mean, yeah, it's probably better.
It's also great.
It'll look weird.
You know what? It'll really be. I'm anti-analytics, but if you know that you can get a playoff in 2.2 seconds when you have 2.5 seconds left.
Why do you have to preface it with the I'm anti-analytics?
Because that's
it's not analytics.
That's total
that's
analytics. It's part of analytics, man.
Oh, stop. It's just numbers. If you know you could get a playoff in that amount of time, isn't that better to have that knowledge?
Yeah.
Oh, let's shove the numbers guy in the locker here.
No, I just said it's a
He's
good
winning
I
you a
just said,
football
but
game.
I just said it's a good thing.
But you have to preface it with the, I'm
because
anti-analytics.
I'm anti-analytics, but
Stop.
I told you it's a good thing.
Stop. That's just a number.
It's a good thing.
It's just a
sometimes analytics can be beneficial.
Oh,
it just shouldn't be, what your team bases everything off of.
Stop attacking the boogeyman.
The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. I guess once again, I'll ask the Justin Fields question. Are you in favor or are you not? I'm anti. But the biggest thing I'm confused by is the people that believe it's almost a bad thing to give Jalen Hurts more help. Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are in a class of their own. There's not many quarterbacks that can play with random people off the street and make their team better. You invested heavily in Jalen Hurts. And if he needs a little extra help, damn right you give it to him. 610-632-0975. Also, coming up next, my man Phil Yates from ESPN will be joining the show. Last time I had him on, well, no, 2 times ago I had him on, was when they hired Sirianni, because he actually worked with Nick with the Chiefs in, like, the film room. Like, that's when you're grinding your teeth in the NFL, right? So Field Yates does a million things when it comes to football coverage on ESPN. So I'd love to get his thoughts on what the Eagles have done so far and what else they could do moving forward. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic.
12 o'clock hour brought to us by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. Field Yates from ESPN will be joining us in about 10 minutes. He'll be coming on at 12:30 to talk about everything the Eagles have done so far and what is still to come with the Eagles. And what is still to come with the Eagles is some press conferences. Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff will speak to the media today at 3 o'clock. Just saw Tyrone and Ricky during the commercial break. You'll be able to hear those live right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. So Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff coming your way at 3 o'clock. No Zach Bond? Or do they not want to do the Joe Bland thing where it's like, hey, Joe, you can sit at the podium with Roy and Cliff and Cole.
I'm sure Zach Bond will be on the Sports Illustrated cover. Don't worry. They won't leave him out of that one.
It's just funny, man. So you were away the first 3 days this week. The Bryce Huff signing has been completely forgotten by people.
Not
because
by me.
It was the first thing that happened, and then Barkley happened, and then there was the shock wave of, oh my God, what else? They won't have anything left for the defense, which people were freaking out, overreacting way too much. You know, and the millennials, we want everything right away. Unreal. And then they get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and it's the return home of a guy that everybody loved here. Bryce Huff has basically been forgotten about. It's crazy.
Yes.
He's a good player.
In the whole, whirlwind of all that, I remember I told you when I was down at Ole Miss that I was, debating against you in the air.
Yes.
I was basically in my hotel room, my poor roommate on the road, basically hosting a show in there as everything happened, in my brain, slowly processing everything that was happened.
Yes.
And I kept coming back to the Huff one. It's like, they did all this, and they got Bryce Huff.
And they got Bryce
A
Huff.
couple hours ago. We keep forgetting that all this happened. Bryce Huff.
He's barely talked about.
No.
And I get it. Look, Saquon Barkley's also a big name. Bryce Huff, I think there's a lot of people that are learning who Bryce Huff is right now. But that was a good move for the Eagles. And so you'll hear them do their press conference coming up at 3 o'clock. Now, I asked this question. I forgot to bring it back up with you because I mentioned it going into a couple of breaks ago. So there was a lot of concern when Saquon Barkley signed, and it was, oh no, how are they going to make the defense better? And so far, I like what they've done so far with Bryce Huff and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but they do need to do more. We had Rob Maaddi on earlier, and you'll be able to hear that again on 97.5thefanatic.com. He basically said, don't expect much with linebacker. He said, man, they really believe in the Kobe Dean. He mentioned Zach Bond, which I hope that he's not a big part of their plans at linebacker. He's been a special teams guy. Okay. I do still think that they trade for a linebacker. I think what they normally do with running back, find the guy in the final year of his rookie deal, maybe they do something like that with a linebacker, and then maybe they bring back a Zach Cunningham or something like that. Nobody's going to be okay with that. Now, here's the thing. I don't think they do that because they signed Saquon. I think they do that, if they do that, because that's just what they believe in. Not putting resources in a linebacker. And are you okay with that?
Not putting resource into it is different to me than neglecting it entirely. Because they've not put a ton of resources into running back over the years, but you've still felt pretty secure that they have a running back room that's operational.
Right, because they always would address it with DeAndre Swift, Jordan Howard. Miles Sanders was a draft pick, and,
And if we're talking about CMC, the Eagles getting Saquon being the answer to, look, they see what McCaffrey did for the 49ers. If you can only notice on one side of the football what the 49ers are doing that make them successful, and that's what you're, selling as what you're pushing towards, I have serious questions for you. I'm not asking you to go out there and spend top 5 money in the NFL at linebacker. I'm asking you to put together a linebacker room similar to the way you've done on the other side of the football with the running back room, and put together something that actually you can feel comfortable going into a season that's out there. Yeah.
Playable.
Basically, and I've been a bigger Kenny G guy than most in this town, but basically the I feel wrong comparing Kenny G to Nakobe Dean because I think we've seen more from Kenny G than we've seen from Nakobe Dean. But basically, that's what you're throwing at us would be that's your equivalent on the defensive end, and that's not okay. That's not okay for what you like. Just neglecting it. And again, this is coming from a guy you talk about microwave society. We are very early into this offseason. There's a lot still to happen. Even Rob said talking about when they may move Sweat or Reddick. Like there's still time before the draft. We come out of the draft. And this is what the linebacker room looks like? Good.
Well, we don't even know what the linebacker room is. We know it's Dean and Bond right now.
And Bond projects more as
special teams depth guy.
And also outside.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like from what he's done with the Saints and what you project him to be on this team that he's going to be an off-ball guy. Like if this is another, we're going to be able to cross-train him. No, you know what you could do? You know, you could just
get guys that just
get
fit.
an off-ball linebacker that actually fits that position. That's what you could do.
But basically what I'm getting out of this is they didn't address linebacker because they got Saquon Barkley. I think they didn't address linebacker or might not address linebacker because that's just what they believe in.
So I got something. Do you want me to hit the sounder? Because it's not really, we know it's happening.
I see it in front of me.
So does it sounder worthy or should we just...
Sure, screw it. Go for it.
Yeah.
I like sounders.
Breaking sports news from 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Go ahead, Ray. What do we got?
So we've got another report here from ESPN. Dan Graziano, per a league source, the NFL is looking into potential tampering by the Eagles and the Falcons related to the free agent signings of Saquon Barkley and Kirk Cousins.
So I'm not surprised. I think every team tampers. Every team tampers. The problem is if somebody is stupid enough to say something out loud, like Kirk Cousins did during his press conference, talking about how he spoke with members of the Falcons prior to the legal tampering period. And that rat, James Franklin, all you Penn State fans out there, you better hold that man accountable. You guys never win the NCAA title because of him. You don't even get to the playoff because of him. And now he's getting the Eagles investigated because of what he had to say the other day at a press conference.
To come back and be able to play within the state, in Philadelphia, he said that was one of the first things that Howie said to him on the phone as part of kind of his sales pitch to him.
So James Franklin says to the world on Tuesday that Howie Roseman said specifically to Saquon Barkley that you'd be closer to the school you went to if you come to Philadelphia. Now, I do know that the Eagles have already denied it. I saw a story yesterday. I think it was from Florio. McManus it was? Okay.
McManus also had one.
So McManus also had one. Maybe Florio too. But they have already come out quickly enough to deny it. Now, my guess would be what they will say is, listen, I said it to his agent. His agent said it to Saquon. And maybe James Franklin just misspoke. I hope it gets to the point where James Franklin has to put out some sort of statement. At this point, he kind of has to.
Yeah, the fact he hasn't already is treason.
Because there's this is amazing that now all of a sudden, and I'm not shocked that they are, but it's because of James Franklin the Eagles are being investigated. Nobody else. It's because of James Franklin. How dare you? Let's go Temple, baby. 610-632-0975. That's the number to climb in. So we'll be joined momentarily by Field Yates from ESPN. He does a tremendous job covering the NFL. He does a million things at ESPN. So I'm looking forward to talking to him about what the Eagles have done so far this offseason. And, one of his coworkers, Dan Graziano, now putting out the report that the Eagles are going to be investigated. So we'll see. We'll see how legit that is. I mean, when I asked Rob Maaddi about it, he said, well, if they're going to investigate the Eagles, they better investigate the Falcons. Well, they're doing both. Let's head to the Comcast Business Hotline from ESPN. Does a tremendous job doing a million things at the worldwide leader. That's Field Yates. Field, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Better than it sounds like Howie Roseman and Terry Fontenot from the Eagles, of course, and the Falcons right now after the league is as you just alluded to, looking into the possibility of some tampering taking place illegally. You can do it legally, but you can't do it illegally, we have learned over these past few days.
Yeah, even though, let's face it, every team is probably doing it illegally, it's just when somebody opens up their mouth, that's when they have to get investigated. And we saw Kirk Cousins mention it during his press conference. And then the freaking Penn State head coach has to open his big mouth.
I feel like maybe I'm wrong, and you would know this certainly better than I would, but it feels like over the past few years there's been a couple conversations about James Franklin, maybe the hot seat with lack of success in big games against the likes of Michigan and Ohio State. Like, this might be the most impactful thing he's done in a negative way over the past few years. You're right. Like, come on now. What's the upside there in revealing, true or untrue, that Saquon Barkley had a conversation with Howie Roseman, and part of the pitch was the ties to Penn State to come to the Eagles. But, yeah, I mean, I sort of look at this as like if, the police ticketed everybody that went over the speed limit, right? Like, they would just spend all their time doing that because, people are obviously 5-10 miles over at all times. But, it's one of those things that I understand why the league has to go through their procedure. But I would think that if they do punish these teams, something significant is not coming down the pike, because it would seem ridiculous given the amount of tampering that we know takes place. The Combine has some value, but I would say one of the most important values is the Combine is the place in which everybody talks to all the agents about all the players that are about to become free agents.
So, Field, one of those players the Eagles acquired is Saquon Barkley, of course. Would love to get your thoughts on the Eagles' addition to Saquon Barkley, how dynamic it makes this offense, but also how surprised you are that the Eagles, of all teams, were the ones that was willing to spend big money on a running back.
I'm stunned. I'm still stunned. And by the way, stunned should not be confused with, not being a fan of the move.
Right.
It's the idea that the Philadelphia Eagles, who I remember last year, and I will never forget the flack that some of my colleagues who were doing mock drafts at the time took about the idea of the Eagles taking with the bonus pick, the Saints pick last year. Hey, take Bijan Robinson, right? Mm-hmm. That pick, I think it was 10th at the time in the draft. They ended up moving up one slot, right? Or maybe it was backwards. Whatever.
Yeah, they went up one spot for Carter, but Bijan went earlier to Atlanta.
That's right. Right, but it was like, maybe the Eagles should take Bijan. And it was like, could you imagine him behind that offensive line? And all the responses were, and I thought this was reasonable, by the way, Philadelphia never spends on running backs. Howie Roseman would never spend big, whether it's cash or draft picks, on a running back, and I suppose it would be both if you take a player 8th overall.
Right.
That being said, here we are a year later, and I have to go look at it closely, but I believe the biggest running back contract for any player signed this offseason in terms of the maximum average annual value. Josh Jacobs had I think a larger total deal, but with that extra year. So I do feel like we're living in a bit of an upside down first with the Eagles paying big for Saquon Barkley. That being said, of course, I like the player a lot. Saquon's one of the best big play threats in all of the NFL, and it's been said a million times, so I'm not trying to tell you that this is a unique or original thought, but behind an offensive line that, however you want to grade it, was the worst, or one of the worst, I should say, over the past 5 seasons, Saquon Barkley really excelled at times. And obviously going to Philadelphia, even with, the retirement of Jason Kelce, this is a team that has been preparing for that possibility for multiple seasons now, and still is one of the most talented and I think capable offensive lines, one of the great offensive line coaches ever, and Jeff Stoutland still on staff, which makes me believe that this running game this upcoming year could be as good as it's been at any time during the Jalen Hurts era, and they've had back-to-back years with the 5th leading rusher in the entire NFL.
So there's a narrative kind of going along here in Philadelphia, because not everybody is still sold on Jalen Hurts, but there's this narrative that it's a bad thing to give him extra help. Like, oh, man, we have to give this $250 million quarterback another weapon. Field, is that necessarily a bad thing? Because to me, my highest investment, I want him to be as comfortable on the field as possible. And if Saquon Barkley helps this offense go forward, and we know the direction this league is going in and how offense wins championships with a couple of plays here and there by your defense, isn't this a good move for the Eagles?
It is a good thing. And first of all, the idea that people aren't sold on Jalen Hurts, to me, is almost ludicrous. Maybe, and I think this is one of the realities of when you're a fan of one team and you focus all your energy on that team, or 95% of it is that sometimes it's hard to take a big step back and realize that if we're building a team from scratch right now, Jalen's probably one of the, I don't know, including non-quarterbacks, one of the 8, 10, 12 first players off this imaginary board that I am making up right now.
Right.
Like, he has pretty much all the traits that you are looking for in a longtime franchise quarterback. I also understand that when you have a season collapse the way that theirs did last year, much of the blame will go on the quarterback, as is often the case. But I don't think there's anything wrong with adding supporting pieces around him. And while I don't want to take every conversation and make it just some comparison or analog to the Chiefs are evidence that even with the best player on the planet, you can go a full regular season of looking terrible on offense, or at least looking league average on offense, which is the case in Kansas City. And part of the reason why is, despite the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes, they did not have enough capable pieces playing at a reasonable enough level behind him, or around him, I should say, for that offense to be anything other than what it was, which was middle of the pack. So I don't think it's a negative. It should not be viewed as a negative in terms of Jalen's credentials, and the team felt a need to boost the offense around him. Again, I'm still surprised because it was the Eagles, but I did not interpret it as some sort of indictment of who Jalen Hurts is as a player.
Yep, me neither. Now, Bryce Huff and Saquon Barkley will both speak today at 3 o'clock. I was just making a joke before I brought you on that I think people already forget that Bryce Huff signed here. With all the news of Saquon Barkley and the big splashy name that he is, would love to get your thoughts on Huff and also the return of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, Bryce Huff was one of my favorite free agent targets for about 15 teams this offseason, because this is not a deep draft class in terms of edge rushers. And, heck, it's not like we see a bunch of free agent edge rushers in general. So the fact that you could get a guy who on a per snap or a per game basis is one of the most efficient players in the NFL. Young, by the way, as well. He's been in the NFL for 4 or 5 seasons now. So this is a young, ascending player that I understand it's difficult if you have to end up trading a guy like Hassan Reddick, who's been very good for the Eagles during his time there. And obviously Josh Sweat, very natural pass rusher in his own right as well. But the Eagles have the opportunity to potentially turn the page to 2 guys, and Bryce Huff, and also last year's second first-round pick, Nolan Smith, that could provide comparable value and kind of get you a little bit younger. Not cheaper, because Huff obviously got a very big deal and a deserved one as well. But in a league in which a lot of teams are desperate for pass rushers, Philadelphia now is in a spot where they might be too deep and have to move on from one of them, maybe even 2 of them. So Bryce Huff, one of my favorite targets in free agency, and it wasn't a surprise that Philadelphia got ahead on that one.
And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, good.
Yeah,
no, that's all right, but a good return. Vic Fangio scheme. Obviously, he played under Jonathan Gannon here 2 years ago, so he knows the scheme pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think also a mentality that this Eagles defense desperately needed.
That's the thing. Yes, that's the thing. It's the edge, right? It's the edge that he brings to the table, right? Which is one of those he's one of those players that finds a way to flirt with that line, right? I feel like we talk about this a lot in hockey. It's like the guy that finds the way to get underneath opponent's skins long enough that can force them into a bad penalty or something dumb, right? In football, I feel like, with Gardner-Johnson, he's always kind of finding a way to annoy offensive linemen or wide receivers to the point that it starts to maybe impact the way the game is unfolding. He's got a lot of versatility, of course, being a slot corner, coming out in the draft and graduating to become a safety, knows the city well, knows kind of the responsibility that comes with playing in Philadelphia. And while he had some, obviously some thoughts about the city after he left in free agency for Detroit, the reality is that I chalk that up to that's just human emotion that I think in a sort of if he had a chance to decompress and really think and reflect upon that Philadelphia tenure in a different sort of set of circumstances, I'm sure would have said different things. But I'd imagine between the need for safety this offseason for the Eagles and also just the need for a little bit more of an edge in the back end, that everybody would be very happy to have him back in the building.
You're the man, Phil. Listen, I know you're busy as it is, even when it's not legal tampering period, but I know your life is a little bit more hectic now as well. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes coming on the show today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. We'll do it again sometime soon.
That'd be great. Love it. Thanks, man. There he is, Field Yates on the Comcast Business Hotline from ESPN. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming back, not just the talent that he is. What? You look at you, smug smile.
It's just when the young radio producer suggests he might have been in his feelings. When the guy from ESPN comes on and says he might have been in his feelings, ooh, now we got something there. We got something there.
No. He apologized, and I thought he rightfully needed to apologize.
I don't think he needed to apologize.
He needed to apologize,
No.
and he did, and I'm glad that he did.
I am obnoxious.
And I wanted him back. You know that. I wanted him back. I just wondered why this time was different for Philadelphia fans, that he said something the way that he did on his way out. And, usually that's enemy for life, and it was different this time. But that's cool. I wanted him back. I'm man enough to want him back.
I was thrilled.
But he needed to apologize, and he did right away on social media. I give him credit for it.
I was dancing around the hotel room, man.
That's good.
I was ready to go. I was fired up.
I'm happy for it. Now, part of the reason why I love that he's back is that edge that we were talking about. Like, that Eagles-Niners game, I'll never forget that. The fact that they just bullied them and they just stood there. Grown men allowing to just be walked all over by the 49ers. I don't think CJGJ allows that, right? All right. We got more time to play around here on the Midday Show. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. I'll reset all the times. We've had a couple of guests, right? We had Rob Maaddi on about an hour ago. We just had Field Yates on. I'll reset everything. But one of the things that we've been talking about is that narrative that I talked to Field about just now. The narrative that it's almost a bad thing Jalen Hurts is getting more help. Like, I don't know what you want. I'm very confused by what people want sometimes. You want Hurts to prove that he's actually a franchise quarterback, so let's not give him more weapons. And then you also want to bring in a big-name backup quarterback because you're not worried about his feelings. Man, I thought Jalen was like the baby that nobody wanted to be critical of. Now all of a sudden, people don't care about his feelings, right? Weird times. We'll continue the conversation next, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Making everything official. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Christian.
Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
12:49 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. So the press conferences of Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff coming your way at 3 o'clock. It's under 3 hours from now, and you'll be able to listen to them live on the best show ever with Tyrone and Ricky and Jen. I asked a question this morning on social media, jokingly, however, serious at the same time. Is today helicopter worthy? Remember the DeMarco Murray day? There are helicopters all up in the sky. You're shaking your head. Is today helicopter worthy? Saquon and Bryce Huff arriving in the NovaCare complex today for their introductory press conference is not helicopter worthy?
No, I don't want helicopters, okay?
Why? Is it bad juju?
Bad juju.
All right.
We're not drafting firemen, and we're not helicoptering people.
Anti-fireman. Yep. Anti-drafting of the firemen.
Yes, we have to clarify that.
Pro-fireman.
Pro-fireman.
Anti-drafting of firemen, future firemen, in the first round specifically.
Yes. I just want to make sure we're clear on that one. This show's
pro-fireman.
Pro-fireman.
I gave firemen some love yesterday. My man Nick Boyle from Manayunk, Roxborough area. I knew him well during my time there.
Right.
He is now a fireman. He used to be a bartender at one of my favorite establishments, CJGJ, in the Manayunk area.
Very nice.
He's now a fireman. And the reason why he even came up on the show was he quote tweeted something Connor Thomas said. Because Connor Thomas was talking about how much complaining there will be of the tush push this year with Saquon Barkley behind Jalen Hurts, to which Nick Boyle said if he doesn't get every goal line carry, the contract's not worth it, in which I agree. With Saquon Barkley here now, the tush push has to be limited. That's another thing that should benefit Jalen Hurts by acquiring Saquon Barkley, is the fact that you don't need a tush push every single time. Yes or no? Shut up, Josh. How many times these guys? Yeah, they've been here for 10 minutes. They don't know that pushing that button goes through the entire studio.
I guess that's on me. I have my mic ready to go.
No, that's okay. You were in mid-conversation. Petrelli, Josh, it's ridiculous. Doing your own show back there?
I guess. I guess they're trying to back there. That's
God. Anywho.
The conversation about the tush push. Yes. Sorry. I still need the tush push. Still need to consider if it's an automatic play, it's got to be an automatic play. It's not automatic. I don't know interior how long they're going to be a hold up to let Saquon go straight through the middle.
Well, hold on a second. Is it an automatic play? Because it wasn't in the playoff game, by the way.
Well,
they got stopped at the goal line.
Yeah. Also, if they're going to start penalizing you.
Well, if they're going to start literally taking cheap shots at Jalen Hurts' head.
Yeah, that's not great either. Well, we're going to find out how automatic it is, I think, pretty soon. I was concerned about without Kelsey the way it works. Now, there's plenty of credit to go to Hurts for what he does for the tush push as well.
Right, but Kelsey was literally the guy handing the ball off and taking the first bit of contact every single time.
So, ultimately, we'll find out how automatic it is. I wouldn't.
You gave Saquon Barkley a lot of money. He should probably carry the ball, and you have Jalen Hurts invested into even more money. Maybe it might be best to keep him healthy.
Listen. I think there's probably more of a balance this year than there was a season ago in terms of the number of times you actually give the running back the ability to score the touchdown on the goal line. But ultimately, if the play is still automatic, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't care about Saquon Barkley's feelings on touchdowns. As long as they score. If they're scoring, I'm not going to care who's scoring the football. Okay. That's ultimately my take on the matter.
Now, this is just sad. This is just sad for somebody. Imagine being so down bad. There's a Twitter account. They've contributed in the program before. NY Giants Talk 15. And, of course, they've contributed not in the most kind way, which I don't blame them. They're Giants fans and we're Eagles fans. We're not supposed to be friends. So he just found my tweet about the helicopter thing and said, tamper, tamper, tamper. Imagine how down bad you got to be right now that you're basically rooting for the Eagles to be penalized via tampering when the whole league does it. Now, there's a lot of reports out there that this is normal, the tampering investigation. but it's pretty sad for somebody to be rooting for tampering implications.
Rooting for the feds, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that's kind of lame. Like, wait, you follow the rules your entire life? Congrats, man.
And
Congrats on
by
being
the
a
way,
loser.
how many times we had to have this conversation? The Giants weren't willing to give Saquon Barkley the money, and apparently they didn't even offer him a contract. So
I don't even care about that end of it. You're rooting for the rules, man. You know how lame you have to be for that one? Are you the guy that drives 35 and a 35?
Right.
Get out of my way if that's the case. I don't like you. You know? When you drop a certain mention of some things you may enjoy on this program, you're sitting there, wow, I can't believe. Even though, Jersey, different laws. But still, I can't believe anyone would do that. Kind of a loser.
yeah,
That's what it sounds like. If you root
I
for
would agree.
tampering rules, you're a loser.
You're a loser. Yeah.
Also, you're naive because everybody tampers. You just can't make it obvious. It's just
Right.
You just can't make it up. You can't have morons.
He's a Giants fan. His organization blows.
They actually might not tamper. That if I were
That
a
might be
Giants
why
fan,
they stink.
That would be the spin I would take. We don't tamper. We follow the rules. You see what following the rules gets you?
Yeah,
That's so nice.
It gets you Daniel Jones to a lot of money,
You know
locked
who
up.
follows the rules? Vanderbilt. What if they won in the SEC?
Great point, man.
That's
You're right.
it's catching her straight there, Vanderbilt. But you follow the rules.
Hey, look,
Overrated.
You're on to something.
Overrated.
Now, speaking of, this whole Giants thing, got an interesting tweet that I did not know about. Eddie Sacchetti checks in. Apparently, according to Eddie, I don't know. I'm just going off of Eddie's tweet. Apparently, James Franklin's a Giants fan. Now, is that accurate? I'm not sure. But if it is, then he needs to be tried for treason, like you said. Or maybe not treason. I don't know what he's tried for at this point. Well, sucking at being a head coach, number one. But he's a spy.
He needs to be gone.
He needs to be gone. Penn State should fire James Franklin. Who's bigger in Penn State or in Pennsylvania, Penn State or the Eagles?
Now, would James Franklin still have a job if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley?
Probably not. I don't know. They seem to love that guy over there.
I'm just saying. Listen, man, of course. How could you not love bringing in top 5 recruiting classes? I mean, that's great. That program is built to win the offseason, and they will every year. They will go into the next season thinking we won the offseason. This is the year that we close the gap. Don't worry. Ohio State, Michigan, you still get them. I don't know if you still get them. I don't know about the whole scheduling with the new Big Ten and all of them. I don't know how that's going to work. Is USC now going to be the one that stands in their way? Who will it be? I don't know.
Yeah. I need Penn State fans to climb in on this at 610-632-0975 because I'm not afraid to attack the cult that is Penn State football. Like, you guys are crazy. I kind of get it, though. Like, I walked on a Notre Dame's campus on a game day, and I understood. So I can only imagine Happy Valley is kind of like that. I get it.
Off the record, just you and I talking.
Just you and I talking.
Just you and I talking.
Us two Temple Owls.
Yeah, just the two of us talking. No one listening. Atmosphere up there on game day?
Oh, yeah. I could see that it's captivating.
Fun. I've enjoyed it before. It's fun.
But all of you Penn State loonies, James Franklin is the head coach that I'm pretty sure a lot of Lions fans don't like. I don't know what the Penn State fans think of James Franklin. That's not my team, right? But the fact that he is now getting into bigger business, and the NFL is bigger than the NCAA, the Eagles is bigger than Penn State football. They're messing with your football team, Penn State people. They are messing with the Eagles. Dude's a rat. Or he's just dumb, and that's maybe par for the course when it comes to him and his coaching.
I was going to say, he might right there. Like, that could have been...
He's just dumb?
A moment. Well, you just think about, like, maybe in-game, like, decision-making. Like, it never has quite clicked for him on, like, winning in the big moments. That was a big moment for him. Saquon coming back, he really wanted to capture and take that moment and capitalize on it. And given his career at Penn State, maybe he's just not good at capitalizing on the big moment. So that might have just been him coming up small in a big moment again. This time, it's just going to hurt the Birds, which is ridiculous because, again, it's not the only one doing this.
No, everybody.
We just got James Franklin.
Yeah, thanks a lot, James.
Yeah.
If he doesn't say that, it probably doesn't happen.
Right. Like, look at the people right now that we're pointing fingers at. James Franklin and Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Two guys that notoriously, when we talk about big moments.
Fail.
Like, Kirk Cousins, not a playoff guy. Penn State football since James Franklin.
Definitely not a playoff school.
Guy. Yeah.
No, definitely
so
not.
It's the people that struggle in the big moments right now that are putting the NFL in a bind to really enforce its rules and be kind of losers.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, James Franklin. Now, one thing that I've yet to bring up, even though I said I was going to, and it's 1 o'clock now, Ray. Whew. John Clark spoke with somebody from the Sixers about Joel Embiid. And finally, it's a more uplifting report because you were away when the Ramona Shelburne stuff came up.
Yeah, I pretend like I didn't see it.
Not uplifting.
No.
Depressing. Now, if you remember, Ray, last Friday, remember it was like toward the end of the show? I was like, how come we haven't gotten an update on Embiid yet? I was worried we were going to get a Friday dump, that things aren't looking good for JoJo. And then sure enough, was it over the weekend or was it Monday?
I think it was Monday or Tuesday. One of the days.
Ramona Shelburne says that Joel Embiid is not even close to returning. She did put out the whole, they still hope to get him toward the end of the season, but he's not even close. When you use the words not even close, and April is 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away, kind of concerning when that's the wording used by Ramona Shelburne, who we know is pretty tied in with Joe, the Sixers, but Joel Embiid specifically. But John Clark puts out a tweet this morning. He's told that Joel Embiid is still on track to return in the first or second week of April before the playoffs, which that's the wording matters there, where you go, all right, he's on track, which is great. Now, the problem is, and I did this yesterday, when it's first or second week of April, well, the second week of April, there's 4 games left. It's San Antonio on the 7th, Detroit on the 9th, Orlando on the 12th, Brooklyn on the 14th. And by the way, San Antonio is the second game of a back-to-back, so if he could come back for Memphis, he's not playing in San Antonio. So regardless, it looks like he'll maybe have 4 games to try to get right for the playoffs. And then probably the play-in game, because I imagine that's where they end up playing. And the good thing is they'll be the higher seed. They'll either be the 7th or 8th. They're not going to fall the 9th or 10th, which means they just have to win 1 to then move into the playoffs. But, man, that means Joel Embiid is going to have 5 games under his belt before playing Milwaukee or Boston. And as great as he is, we know what has happened with him in the past, coming off of injury and having to get back into game shape. You know what the conversation's going to be probably when the NFL dies down a little bit, even though it's the league that never sleeps. You know what we're going to get into at some point, like next week or two. Is it even worth it? And I'm a bring him back guy, but if I find out he'll only have 3 games under his belt, chances of them winning anything are less than what they already are now. And that's if he comes back next week, the chances are still grim because they're going to be a low seed. But man, if he doesn't have much time under his belt, it's going to raise the question of whether or not it's even worth it.
So while you do walk down a dark, dark path that, I'm sure plenty already have, if you bring him back the last 4 games of the season, and the way this is going right now, nobody's pulling, the 6th seed and the 5th seed are not necessarily out of the question in terms of no one's really pulling away from you. I think you entered today a half back of the Pacers.
Yeah.
And they're the 6th seed. So if you still have a chance to bring him back for 4 games, Embiid at 70% or whatever percent he returns is better than what you got right now.
No, absolutely. By the way, they're tied with the Pacers as of today.
Fantastic. Even better. thought for sure they were a half game back, so they're tied with them.
Yeah.
You bring him back, and you're still within that range because it doesn't look like any of these teams, again, are taking that, they're not falling to the point where they're, 8 and they're 8 because they're 3 or 4 games back. If they stay right within this pack, you bring him back, and this team puts in even a small semblance of good enough basketball to win a few games down the stretch, get themselves that 6th seed, and he gets himself back on the floor. They try and start figuring it out. It's not going to be pretty. You don't feel great about the hopes, but you at least don't have to do the whole play-in and, we have, him still getting it back into basketball shape in games that will pretty much, you could potentially work yourself out of the postseason very quickly.
Yeah, look, I'm playing him because I want to give myself the best chance, and he is your best player. And once again, for all of you who wanted to see what the life without Joel Embiid is like, you having fun? Because I'm not.
No.
I'm miserable watching the Sixers and Tobias Harris specifically, Ray. But I'm the casual,
Casual.
But it is going to be something that we have to talk about, whether or not it's even worth it. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of Sixers fans out there that say, yeah, play him because he's probably going to get hurt next year anyway, so what does it matter? It just sucks. Like, who was it? We played the 2 clips. Who does Zach Lowe? I forget who Zach Lowe does the podcast with. And they said that Joel Embiid's career is one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history because of how good he is. Right, like Andrew Bynum gets hurt, but like Bynum wasn't as dynamic as Embiid. He's a good ball player, right? But not to the level of Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid won an MVP, but he's just always hurt at the worst times. Or in this case, may be good timing because of when he got hurt, but if he comes back, same thing. He'll have a couple of games to try to get right. That was a bummer. But at least for the first time, we got positive phrasing of a report. Does that make you feel any better, what John Clark had to say, as opposed to Ramona Shelburne saying not even close?
No, because I think it's probably just the flip side of the same coin.
Yeah.
Like one saying not close to saying first week of April. Well, the first week of April, while it calendar-wise feels close, like is not close saying that, he's not close to being back by the end of this month, not close to being back, second week of April. Second week of April is basically a month away. So, I was hoping I would see Joel Embiid before I saw Christopher Sanchez. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think I'm going to see Christopher Sanchez before I see Joel Embiid.
Well, Christopher Sanchez, nice arm.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with Christopher Sanchez. But
by the way, speaking of baseball, Adam Duvall back to the Braves, another 1-year deal.
Congrats.
Yeah, so they just load up another power hitter.
That's fine. Wheeler's going to blow a fastball by him up in the zone. It's going to be all over for him.
That'd be nice. Now, one bit of NFL news from yesterday that is comical is what the Tennessee Titans did by signing Calvin Ridley to a 4-year deal. I still think Calvin Ridley's a talented player, but he's no A.J. Brown. Calvin Ridley, 4 years, $92 million, 50 of which is guaranteed. A.J. Brown was what, 4 years, $100 million? And they didn't want to give him that? And yet they'll give Calvin Ridley 4 years, $92 million. They paid Tony Pollard 3 years, $24. He got the DeAndre Swift contract. And yet they fired their head coach, and they're still the unknown of the future at quarterback. Some teams just confuse me. I talked about this on Monday with Tom. Like, Monday and Tuesday were days where we should probably be thankful for Howie Roseman. Because what are the Falcons doing? Giving Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million contract, 100 of which is guaranteed, fully guaranteed, when he's 35 years old, coming off of a major injury, and he's won one playoff game. What are they doing?
I am still shocked by that. And I wasn't here on the air, and obviously we're not going to be diving deep into the Kirk Cousins thing, but what in the world are you thinking? We were talking about that man getting another year or two at a high value. You gave him 4, all that guaranteed money coming off the Achilles. And okay, he's got weapons at his disposal. Sure.
He had Justin Jefferson.
Not like he didn't have anything in. I don't get it. I do not get it. My brain cannot comprehend what the Falcons are doing.
Just keeps getting paid, and good for him. Whatever.
Do they look at maybe this is how I justify my mind? Because I'm trying. I've really been trying since it happened. I've obviously was focused on other things going on, but it did. Sitting there getting ready for the pregame show, just think Kirk Cousins, how to get that money? You know, how does this work? And you think maybe the NFC South is so bad that they're like, you know what?
Which it is.
Here's a window of opportunity. We pay this quarterback. Kirk Cousins maybe gets us to the postseason.
He still has to win a playoff game.
But yes, well, one is to win a playoff game. And do you think they beat one of the top teams in the NFC?
No, absolutely not. And Kirk Cousins probably deserves a job in the NFL. I'm not saying he doesn't,
No,
but
he's probably a good starter, a good
what he
bridge.
got and a bridge that's like a talented team, maybe. I don't know. I just don't get what some organizations do. You missed it. I went on another rant of the Chicago sports teams being offensive to my sports intellect by giving DeAndre Swift. Happy for the kid. Happy for him. Local kid. Got that bag. That's great. What were they doing? They're offensive to me.
That's
Chicago.
not even the Chicago move that I was offended by.
Which one were you offended
Cease.
by? Oh, yeah. Dylan.
You get 2 top 100 prospects?
That's right, for a stud.
Right
for a
before
stud.
And also, Padres, in the midst of their weird situation. It's 2 weird situations, but I feel like that's a low return, especially you just had the Yankees get the Garrett Cole news.
Yeah.
So you knew the starting pitcher market was going to start to shake up a little bit because
you could have gotten a lot more. You could have gotten a lot more from New York, which is also known for having a lot of great prospects.
That's what you got? You were engaged with 3 or 4 different teams? That's all that you got?
City of Chicago, man. Dylan Cease, DeAndre Swift, keeping Andre Drummond because you think you're going to win something.
Let's keep the
by the
core
way,
together.
keeping that big 3 that's 1-0. Craig Counsell being God, and the Cubs doing, firing David Ross just to get Craig Counsell in there. The city of Chicago is offensive to me. They should not be allowed to play in major leagues in professional sports. They should be suspended for a year. That's my take on things. 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. So here's the deal. We got 1 segment left. I still have the pair of tickets for the Sixers-Clippers game, which is coming up on March 27th, so 13 days from now. Sixers-Clippers, James Harden's return. But probably the biggest thing out of all of it for you personally is the fact that it's knockout night. So here's what we're going to do. We've just been doing it all week because there's been so much news that I haven't had time to come up with fun little games, right? There's just been so much content that I need it. I need the content, right? We're starved for it. Best caller rest of the way. Final segment, 610-632-0975. Talking about what we have on the table today, which I will reset everything next. Best caller rest of the way will win the pair of tickets to the Sixers-Clippers game on March 27th and the spot in Knockout after the game. I'll tell you all about Knockout coming your way next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Chester today. A little bit of news in the NFL just now. The Atlanta Falcons, after signing Kirk Cousins, decided it must be it for Desmond Ridder. Told you. He gets traded to the Arizona Cardinals, so he'll be the backup to Kyler Murray. He's horrible, Desmond Ridder. Horrible. He's a guy that I would watch play and go, how is this guy in the NFL? I don't want to be that guy, right? Because, I'm not Mr. Athleticism, right? That's why I'm doing this for a living. I'm not a former professional athlete doing this for a living. But watching him play football was just ugly and almost made me feel sick to my stomach. So Desmond Ridder no longer the starting quarterback in Atlanta, and he goes to Arizona to be the backup to Kyler Murray. Now, I told you we still have yet to give away the pair of tickets to the Sixers game when they take on the Clippers on March 27th. So we're going to do that the rest of the show. The best caller the rest of the way, we only got about 30 minutes to mess around with, at 610-632-0975, will win the pair of tickets to the Sixers game against the Clippers on March 27th. It is knockout night. The Fanatics knockout tournament is back. After the game, you'll head to the court to battle your favorite Fanatic hosts in knockout. Visit 975thefanatic.com for complete details and another chance to win. Presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train heating and air conditioning distributor. Visit train.com to find a dealer near you. So here's what we've been talking about today. And once more, best caller rest of the way will win it. 610-632-0975. So I started off the show with this ridiculous narrative that I've seen on social media. I got an email from a guy named Jim about it. I've heard callers complain about how the Eagles didn't need to get Saquon Barkley because they already had everything else. And, okay, I understand. You wish they went in a different direction. You wish they signed a linebacker. You wish they signed a bigger safety like an Xavier McKinney, right? I understand that some people have preferences. But there's this weird narrative that giving Jalen Hurts more help is like a bad thing. That it shows that the Eagles don't truly believe in Jalen Hurts. And so, they have to do more to make him comfortable. Isn't that a good thing? Whether they believe Jalen Hurts is some top 2 quarterback or not, isn't that a good thing? If I go around the league, except for Patrick Mahomes and what once was Tom Brady, all the top quarterbacks in the NFL have legitimate weapons. All of them. In the Eagles' case, it's just maybe a little bit more. And I don't have a problem with that. Try to stop the Eagles' offense. I dare you. And last year, one of the things that really stood out when it comes to this RPO game that the Eagles had, or lack thereof last year, was because teams didn't really respect the run game. You have to respect it now with Saquon Barkley. I know DeAndre Swift had a great year last year for his standards, for his career, and it got him paid. But it didn't seem like they respected him and Kenneth Gainwell, obviously. And I think they have to with Saquon Barkley, which in turn makes Jalen Hurts' life easier. A guy that you put in a lot of money, a guy that you made a big investment in. I think there's this narrative that, if you pay the quarterback should be able to win without, these top players. Well, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, they're basically on an island. And we had Field Yates on earlier today from ESPN, and he made the great point of, well, during the regular season, it wasn't the Chiefs' offense that was winning them games. It was the defense. And that was with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. Good quarterbacks also have good weapons. And so why is it in this case that there's like a narrative of, oh, got to do whatever we can to help Jalen? Okay, help Jalen. You already gave him the money. The money's already there. So why would you mess around with not giving him more help? So that's topic number one for you to climb in with. Another one, the Justin Fields thing is still being talked about daily. I just don't get why people want to try risking what we went through just a couple of years ago. I read an email from my guy, Ant Perry, who emails a lot, Anthony Perry, and he does the whole, you're too young to understand. You don't know what you're talking about. You're young. I'm old enough to remember what happened with Carson Wentz just a couple of years ago, and how he did not handle Jalen Hurts being here very well at all. And I understand that Jalen Hurts, he's got a better head on his shoulders. We don't know that. What if there's more adversity to what there already is inside NovaCare? Them questioning his leadership abilities. Now you're going to bring in a backup quarterback that people here in Philadelphia wanted to draft, and you're just going to expect that Jalen Hurts is okay with it? Oh, don't worry about his feelings. Why not? You probably should. Because if he goes downhill the way Wentz went downhill, now what? We just expect Howie Roseman to rebuild the team a fourth time? I don't think so. I don't think it's bright to do that. So you can climb in at 610-632-0975. I also want to hear from Penn State fans. You guys got to hold James Franklin accountable right now. It's a shame that the Penn State fans have been quiet about this. And I feel like a lot of Penn State fans don't like James Franklin to begin with. Now he's messing with the Eagles. Kind of weak of the Penn State fans today, Ray, if I'm being completely honest.
Not their best showing.
If Coach Drayton did something to this extent, I'd hold him accountable. I'd rip him on air.
Spring practice coming up. I'm sure he's got media availability.
Yeah.
If might be asked about Matt Hennessy, even though he wasn't his coach. Probably, hey, Matt and I talked. Excited to have him back in the city. That's it.
No, not just Matt and I talked. If he said...
No, but he wouldn't say any of this.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But if he did, I would hold him accountable. As a Temple alum, the Penn State fans out there, you guys have kept your mouth shut about this. This is a pretty big deal. The Eagles are now being investigated. What?
Breaking sports news from 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
What do we got?
Doesn't have to do with us, but I wanted to bring it up here because it has to do with one of the things we talked about. Falcons trading Desmond Ridder. Rondell Moore is the return, as Desmond Ridder is now a Cardinal. So Jonathan Gannon creating his own quarterback factory out there in Arizona. Ritter, Murray, but they got rid of his pew-pew guy. And that is something that we will never have taken from us.
Oh, pew-pew, yeah, that's a big one.
They can move Rondell Moore to whatever team it is, but we will never, ever forget the pew-pew video.
Well, now, I'm glad that he added a little bit more to that breaking news, because while you were recording your update in there, I told everybody about the Desmond Ridder trade.
No way.
When he hit the breaking news, I was like, what is he going to tell me? Yeah, no, I told everybody. But I did not know the return. So thank you for adding the Rondell Moore and the pew-pew part. That's why I was staring.
Did you get to the knockout read?
Yes.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. That's why I was staring at the YouTube camera. Like, yeah, I did this whole Desmond Ridder stinks, and I felt sick watching him play football, and now he's a backup quarterback, and I'm glad the Eagles didn't trade for him to be the backup quarterback. It's okay.
No, it's all right.
You were doing other things back there.
Yeah, I want to record the update to make sure we get out on time, and we have that figured out. So, hey,
that's okay.
I haven't been here in a while. It's spring training for everyone.
It's such big news that we wanted to talk about it twice in a span of
cover it twice.
9 minutes.
Desmond Ridder got traded before Justin Fields.
Exactly. All right, let's go back to the phone. 610-632-0975. Best caller rest of the way will win a pair of tickets to the Sixers game on March 27th and a spot in Knockout. Let's go to Matt in Drexel Hill. Matt, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I don't think anybody has talked about I like the Barkley move, but it's a sexy move. And I seen something, if you look, the leading rusher to every Super Bowl winning team in like the last 20 years, they barely make $2 or $3 million base salary.
So it's funny you bring that up. I've done that on these airwaves multiple times, pointing out the running backs and how the last time a high-paid running back that won a Super Bowl was Marshawn Lynch with the Seattle Seahawks. That's a long time ago now. But even though I say that, I'm still very excited about the signing.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It goes against what I believe in. How about that? Like, the Saquon Barkley signing and the money that he got goes against everything that I believe in. But if it makes Jalen's life easier, if it makes this offense tick, which it did not tick at all last year, the final 2 months of the season, then I'm all for it, with the belief that Howie still adds to the defense. I think one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people was that they signed Saquon and that was it. But they then move on and get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bryce Huff.
Yeah. Do you think Howie he's always moving up or trading back. Do you think any chance he trades up this year?
Absolutely.
To get a defensive player?
Yeah, I mean, he never sits on his hands, right? So they have so many picks. They're going to get more picks if they trade Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, right? So he's going to do something. He'll move up. He'll move back. He might use picks to grab other players that are already in the NFL. I've made I've brought up the whole, why can't the Eagles trade for a linebacker on the final year of his deal like they do with running backs every single year? So I do think he's going to move up. I don't think he's going to sit down as far as they are in the first round right now. No.
I was scratching my head about even just picking up Kendricks yesterday. Like, why didn't they do that? Somebody that's at least could play a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around. Thanks for the call, Mal. I'll put you in the running for the Sixers tickets. I mean, he's a nice player.
We're desperate for something.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I don't even know.
Where did he end? Because he backed out of the Niners deal.
Cowboys.
Yeah, that's right. He ended up going to.
Well, because I started reading that tweet, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. He's not a 49er. That's hilarious. And then it was like, he's a Cowboy. And I was like, oh, now he's still not. Still don't like him. But we're begging for a lot here. One thing we know is not going to happen, and that's wonderful news to everyone. Nicholas Morrow will not be back.
Yeah, that's right. He signed where?
Buffalo. So he's up in Buffalo. That's good for us.
I mean, Eric Kendricks he's 32. I don't know. It's a body.
It's investment in something.
Yeah,
again.
That's yeah. That's not gonna. That wouldn't have really changed much to me. Now to the running back thing. So here are your leading rushers by year for not. I wouldn't say just the Super Bowl winner. I would say also the other team that was in it. So last year, the winner was Pacheco. The loser was Christian McCaffrey. So pretty big running back there. The year before, once more, Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire when they beat the Eagles, and they had Miles Sanders at the final year of his contract, which was not all that much money, and Kenneth Gainwell. The year before that, when the Rams beat the Bengals, the Bengals had Mixon. He was still on his rookie contract at the time. And the Rams had Cam Akers. So it's not like he was, well, how many years in the league was he at? He was still on his rookie contract at that time. Before that, a bigger name was Leonard Fournette when the Bucs beat the Chiefs, but he was signing one-year deal. And for little money.
Playoff Lenny.
Yeah, playoff Lenny. Chiefs again before that against the San Francisco 49ers. Then it was New England. That's, James White. And then it was the Eagles with LeGarrette Blount and Corey Clement. But one-year deal, LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement, undrafted free agent. Jay Ajayi was a midseason trade. It goes back to Seattle winning in 2014, the 43-8 one against Denver with Marshawn Lynch. So it's been 10 years since a paid running back won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, highly paid. I mean,
but does that mean if your team's paying a running back, you're not going to win the Super Bowl?
The way I continue to look at it is, did the Eagles get better by adding Saquon Barkley?
And
right
they
now?
did.
And they did. And I don't know if I believe in it. I think if you're going to do it, Saquon's one of the few you do it with. I think the extra cap room this season, like the increase that they didn't anticipate, I don't know if that played a role.
It could have.
I would strongly think that there is, you were handed $15 million more dollars. You end up giving him a contract that, the AAV would be something around 12, 13. I know you had Matt Breen on yesterday. He was talking about, what was it? Gabe Davis and
Darnell
Mooney money.
Yeah.
Like, he's a bigger impact on your offense
than
those
Gabe
two.
Davis and Darnell Mooney. Absolutely.
Right. So you got another weapon for your quarterback, someone that can do just about everything in the backfield. Again, with pretty much the money you were handed extra than what you anticipated.
Yeah.
I think I wrap my head around it being
makes sense.
solid.
Yeah, it makes sense to
Like if you're going to
make that move.
This is the time to do it.
And
This was
by the way,
situation
Howie's the cap
to do
wizard, so like he's also making it like it work.
Right.
He knows what he's doing.
The cap hit graphic that I know was making its circles, on social media, where it was like Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and then it was Jalen
Everything,
Hurts,
yeah.
AJ Brown, Saquon, and Devontae.
all less than one player.
Right, the quarterback for
Unbelievable.
Daniel Jones too, man. The fact that the fourth hammer less than Daniel Jones.
He stinks. He's so bad.
If I was like, I don't know how I'd react as a Giants fan. I haven't really been able to get my family on the phone on this one because, again, it does kind of feel like this is a fracturing moment. I'm trying to negotiate to take the dog named Barkley from my cousins because,
okay.
yeah, like I mean, you can't. You've already trained the dog. You can't really
you named the
reteach it.
dog Barkley.
Yeah, yeah. So my cousins have a dog named Barkley. Very cute dog. Love that dog, honestly. So that's why
Do they lie and start saying they named the dog after Matt Barkley?
I think that'd somehow be worse. We always.
What about Charles?
Well, that was it, but I mean, New York, Charles, like
That's true.
that's another Philly thing. Like I think as a part of the contract, as part of Saquon signing, I should get the dog.
I think that's fair.
I want the dog.
All right,
truthfully.
then take the dog. Go in there and take the dog, just like the Eagles took Saquon away from the Giants. Just go.
Feels like that would be illegal, and the Eagles did nothing illegal to get Saquon.
You know what's? I go back to something that we talked about a few weeks ago, right? When there was not much buzz, there wasn't much to really react to. We had, I thought, a very intelligent football conversation, right? Because that's what us football guys do. Yeah.
Thought we were going to do that.
Yeah. Remember, I brought up the trend of paying quarterbacks when they haven't won anything. Teams are so starved for the quarterback that guys like Daniel Jones will not be the last bad quarterback contract. Like that's horrible, and that's going to set that franchise back for a while. Not that franchise is really a beacon of light.
He won a playoff game.
He did win a playoff game.
You know who lost that playoff
Kirk
game?
Cousins did.
All comes full circle. Which, by the way, did you hear? Desmond Ridder got traded.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate I appreciate that info. But seriously, like, I wonder if it ever comes a time or if it doesn't freaking matter. Like, look at what the Seahawks, they're barely paying Geno Smith. Now, I know that Geno Smith's probably never going to win anything. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. But did the Giants really think they had something in Daniel Jones? Or is it, we need a quarterback, so we're going to pay this guy what other quarterbacks get, or he'll walk, because that's what good agents will do. Like, hey, no, you're not going to give our guy the going rate of quarterbacks, and we're leaving. It's crazy how much money is out there. I mean, Kirk Cousins hasn't won squat, and look at what he got from Atlanta. And if he didn't get it from Atlanta, dude, he would have gotten it somewhere else.
See, that's where I might differ in you. That last statement right there. Would he have gotten it somewhere else? 4 years for the money, the guaranteed?
Maybe.
Like, I don't know. If I'm the agent, I just like, yo, man, pack your bags. You live in Atlanta now. Like, there's no way you're not getting any better than this.
Maybe. I don't know. It's either you overpay a quarterback at this point or you draft a quarterback. That's what the NFL is now.
Yeah.
And then there's very few in the middle where they get paid a lot of money, but they've shown something, which I know it's a very short window to show something. 4 years, a rookie contract, like very tight window. Like Justin Herbert getting paid, like that makes sense. Joe Burrow, well, he got to the Super Bowl, but like guys like Herbert, I get it. I get why you pay the guy, but like a guy like Daniel Jones, he shouldn't have gotten the money that he got.
No, he shouldn't have. You're not gonna. You know what? Actually, that was a great deal for the Giants. Let me explain it to you. No, like it was bad. It's again, he won a playoff game. It was an organization looking for something in that regard. I can't believe that. I don't know. I guess it's kind of incredible when we think about, you talk about being grateful for Howie Roseman, how he manipulates the cap, and somehow so many of these teams fail to do that. Because Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. But Daniel Jones being the quarterback for that team that goes 9-8 and just finds a way to get into the postseason, like, you're not going to sell that as a Super Bowl contender, but you could, repackage of, like, if he's not $47 million against the cap and he's like 17, where it's like, okay,
then
maybe they can build a really good team around him. That's an anchor. That's not even an anchor. No, that's like The
That's
Titanic.
Yeah, it's the freaking iceberg that they hit. Like it's horrible, but that's just the way the NFL is. And like I think of other young quarterbacks right now, like Bryce Young. I don't think he's going to be good. I don't. When I watched him play yesterday, noodle arm, like nothing. And I get it that team's a mess in Carolina. But I just watched that guy play, and I might be jumping the gun. I could be. It was his rookie year, right, on a very bad team, bad situation in that organization. They're trading away all their best players and not getting actual good returns for them. Brian Burns, Christian McCaffrey. But is he going to be a guy in 2 years from now when it's that, because it's a 4-year deal, but it's 3? Are they going to overpay? Are they going to pay that dude millions of dollars to be what they hope to be a franchise quarterback? It's just, it's crazy how teams are so starved for quarterbacks that they're willing to overpay for a guy like Kirk Cousins that's never won, and a guy like Daniel Jones, who I didn't see anything out of where I said he's a good option. All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Nate in the Northeast. What's up, Nate?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. So just to touch on the two topics you had today. First things first. When you buy a car, like a Bentley, you get insurance for it because it's protection on your vehicle. Why wouldn't you look at the same situation as surrounding your quarterback, who is your biggest asset right now, with the things that it needs to be successful?
Yeah, I had a caller earlier that made another car comparison. Like, you're buying a Ferrari, but you're getting a bunch of parts, like, off a used car lot. Like, why would you do that to your nice car? Like, it makes no sense to me that there is a narrative of, oh, what, they got to give this guy more help? Oh, so be it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, the people that have that mindset, that are upset with it, have the idea of, they're just, I don't want to say older generation, because they look at us younger people that, we might not know things and we live in a microwave society, but, you guys are expecting something, from somebody and not giving them the things that they need to actually be successful.
And Hurts isn't Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, yeah. I don't expect if Jalen Hurts had Devontae Smith and nobody else, I don't think the Eagles would be that good. I still think Hurts is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's one of these guys that he can win 12 games with one weapon on his team, right? Like, I think he needs extra help, but he's the guy that executes it, right? And so if he's the guy that executes it, why not have more weapons out there for him? And I don't understand why it's like a narrative that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, there's kind of people, like I said, you just go back to, I just like to ask the question back to them. What is a quarterback without a wide receiver? What is a quarterback without a tight end? And what is a quarterback without a running back?
Right. Well, Brady and Mahomes, there's two guys in their own class. Now, what do you got on Fields, man?
So on Fields, it goes right back to your guys' situation as well. It's the same thing as Carson Wentz. At the end of the day, you can look at Jalen Hurts. He's very stoic. He has that, he has that, tough guy outside, it looks like, but none of us know him personally, and at the end of the day, we are all human. We all experience emotions. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and you never know when it might blow up. And I appreciate the call, and they'll put you in the running for the Sixers tickets. Like, if it may not amount to anything. Justin Fields could come here, be the greatest backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, the two of them could have a great relationship, and then Fields walks after this year, and maybe he gets a shot somewhere where he doesn't get all that much money, but he's a chance to start. Maybe he signs a 1-year deal somewhere. All that could be beautiful. Or Hurts loses his mind, just like Carson Wentz did. And then if you want to complain about adding Saquon Barkley to an already star-studded offense, you're going to complain if Jalen Hurts is not playing well because of what's going on around him. Right? Like, I see the upside, but I also see what could be a major issue. And I think we're already ignoring the fact that this happened once in Philadelphia, and we're just basing it off of this won't happen again because Hurts is not Carson Wentz and he's built different. And I just don't think that's worth the risk. Unless Hurts says he's cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need the noise. I think that's where I keep coming back to. I don't need the noise surrounding it. I will push back on one thing that you said. You keep coming back to the Mahomes. He is not Mahomes. I'm not trying to say that he's Mahomes. Mahomes still has Travis Kelce. And Mahomes also this season, there was the conversation of, wow, has this offense fallen off? Like you mentioned Phil Yates saying that. Like the argument loses its validity when you consider that the Chiefs, even with probably the most talented quarterback we think we'll ever see, still had their struggles this year and still had their struggles offensively. They did not. This Eagles defense that ended up all the way down there.
Horrible. They slowed down Patrick Mahomes.
Shut him out in the second half. Like, you lose validity in the whole, like, well, the quarterback should be able. Yeah, lots on the quarterback's shoulders. Absolutely. He has a ton that he has to do. Look around the league. The way you keep saying it, and I know we elevate Mahomes to a whole different class. He turned it up in the playoffs. They win a Super Bowl.
Because that's Mahomes.
Yeah, great for him. They still had their question marks. They still had their problems throughout the season because they didn't have the talent there. Because they didn't have
you could literally just pay attention to Travis Kelce, and that's it. And then just, all right, go ahead, Scantling. Go ahead, Kadarius Toney.
How many more games would they have won if they had talented wide receivers? Who's to say?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, look what they did with Tyreek Hill for many years. They lost him, and you saw how that affected Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense. So I don't understand why that's a bad thing.
The knock of the system quarterback, I think, comes a lot to people, quarterbacks that we were wrong about. And when I say we, I just mean like media types. Like, I think a lot of the narrative of the system quarterback ends up coming to, oh, well, I was wrong about that player. I wasn't actually wrong about that player. He's just benefiting from his system.
Right.
Because
yeah, because the term system quarterback or game manager or whatever is like, it almost sounds like it's a negative thing. Wouldn't you want your quarterback to manage the game well?
I want my quarterback to be maximized by the system that they're in. I want my quarterback to be the best at managing the game.
That's why I'm paying him the most money on the team.
These are ways of just saying I was wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, that's basically.
Now, look, I believe if it was just Devontae Smith, right, and Jack Stahl is your number one tight end and Kenneth Gainwell is your number one running back, I don't think Jalen Hurts would have that great of a season. I don't know how many quarterbacks would have that great of a season, though, with that team.
You would get big numbers from Smith. That'd probably be the one thing that, you get from it. Hurts with him, I imagine they put up numbers, but you
kind of saw it in the playoff game, right?
Yeah.
Now, they did have Dallas Goedert in that situation.
Right. I mean, his first year as a starter, you saw him with Smith. I go back, was it the Giants game? It was a raker that pass hit him right in the helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
There were 5 or 6 drop touchdown passes.
But again, that's a built-in flaw of a team that doesn't have weapons, which is why, to tie the bow on the show.
That's what we always do, man.
You can't sit here today. It's an indictment that they had to go out and pay a running back. Like, I think anyone that thinks that way, you've lost it a little bit. You're unfortunately, we have take brain in today's world.
Oh, yeah.
I think you have take brain. I think you talk about Jay, West Philly need the brain study.
Oh, yeah, he needs to get studied.
Those that say adding a talented player to your offense is an indictment of your quarterback probably have take brain.
Living and dying by the take. That's pretty much what it is. All right, so hold on a second. We got to check this. Ray, it is 71 degrees outside. So you're wearing a thick, nice jacket. That thing's got to come off.
Oh, I'll take it off.
71 degrees. When I used to work with Ant, I would get ripped for planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
This was a plan ahead week. I already had dinners. I've already grilled back-to-back days. Cooper tried a burger for the first time yesterday. Big day. He took a few bites of it, and then it became too much, the bread and the meat and all that kind of stuff. We had to kind of individual, split it up a little bit. He took care of business. He's a champ. Today's yard work day, and I'm excited. For the first yard work's fun. It's once you get to June, July, August, it's like a baseball season. You start going through that grind. You're like, I can't, man. Just wake me up for the playoffs.
I bought my first ticket today.
That's good. Opening day?
Opening Saturday.
Okay.
I'm a big opening Saturday.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you are doing what? Mr. About Town, Philadelphia.
Oh, today while it's warm?
Yeah.
Oh, I will be headed to a nice brewery after this.
Okay,
Then I'll be
good.
going to meet our good friend Bob Cooney for
Nice.
a nice beverage. So,
Okay.
yeah.
See,
looking
that's the
forward.
beauty of the weather like this when it first turns, because now like you want to get out.
Yeah.
You're juiced up. You're ready to go. Because I'm in suburbia, it's a little different for me nowadays. Like today would have been a Manioc like special for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to Uber to meet, and then I'm going to walk.
Smart.
Because tonight is also Urban Village Trivia Night.
Oh,
so,
that's big for you.
Yeah, this is going to be a heck of an afternoon.
So you enjoy yourself.
Oh, I will.
Enjoy
I'm
the
home.
warm weather. I hope everybody's enjoying the warm weather. The beauty, or the worst part about this, in this chair, no windows. I haven't been able to look outside. So like, I can't wait to walk outside like Shawshank Redemption, just instead of going through, the sewers. It's just I'm walking through One Ballot Plaza and then walking outside and taking in the sunlight. So I can't wait for it. All right. Tomorrow, 12 o'clock, major programming announcement. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock here on this show. Talk to you tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Best show ever next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Making things official. I'm Ray Dunn, and this update is brought to you by PJ Will.